task. wonderful.
Hey,
Man, that was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Academy of Tone 245 coming straight from LA.
Yes.
With my, new best friend.
Yeah.
Eric Steckel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we came from the NAMM show and
Yeah.
I have to put this volume down. Do you know where this? Here.
Oh yeah, because we hear ourselves.
Yeah.
We hear ourselves delayed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are here in Westwood, close to. You are local. You know where we are.
Yeah, we're around like UCLA area.
Yeah.
You know, like this
The
is
college.
Yeah, this is like, well, not literally on the campus, but in that general sort of college area.
And not
you
too
know.
far from Santa Monica.
Right, exactly.
Here
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the tourist things, which I
Exactly.
sometimes enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I 5 years ago I moved. I used to live closer. I used to live in Laurel Canyon.
Right.
And it was very expensive. It was a small little place. I was just renting and parking on the street and you know what I mean. Like, so then 5 years ago I moved up to Santa Clarita, which is still LA County. Actually,
Right.
it's still Los Angeles, but it's at the very top. I mean, like the next freeway exit north would be already Ventura County. Like it's way at the top. Which is beautiful. In 99% of the time, it's like the perfect place to live, except for when you have to go somewhere in the morning in LA.
And the traffic is always bad in
Exactly.
LA.
Yeah.
All day long. I mean, even at night sometimes.
Oh yeah, there's no such thing as like really rush hour here anymore.
Yeah.
It's just always crowded.
Rush hour.
Yeah, it's just one long rush hour that never ends. And you're right. Sometimes if you go to any other town, any other sort of normal American town, at 3 a.m, there's nobody on the road. LA, there's like hundreds of people around, and you're like, whoa.
Every day.
It's crazy, man.
Day in, day out, yeah.
It's crazy.
And so where you're living is not where the wildfires have been, right?
Well, not the two big ones, but there was actually the night before NAMM started.
Yeah.
So Wednesday night, I actually was starting to pack to evacuate because there was a fire. It was like it's called the Hughes fire, and it was. Literally. I have photos on my phone of like I could just looking out the window and seeing flame. So I was actually
ready to split.
I had my. It's so funny when you're in evacuation mode, the things that you really see quickly what matters to you.
The guitar, probably.
Yeah, it was all my nags, right?
Yeah.
My passport, maybe a change of clothes or something, and that was it. Phone charger.
Yeah. And all the rest is secondary. Is not important.
Right. I grabbed a couple of really sentimental things. I grabbed. I have a DVD, which even that technology is outdated now. But I have a DVD that John Mayall made for me of the behind-the-scenes stuff he shot when I was touring with him back in like 2003 through 2005,
That's
whatever.
very special.
So I grabbed that as well. Because that is literally that was my break into this whole business. So
nice.
But and then luckily, so then that's why I didn't go to NAMM on Thursday, because I was like, I just wanted to be holding down the fort. We had no power, everything was, totally screwed up. So I didn't get to NAMM until Friday because I just wanted to make sure. And then by Thursday afternoon, the firefighters had the Hughes fire like 79% contained. So then I was like, all right, now I can leave the house and not be too worried. But if I would have went to NAMM on Thursday, I would have been just too
worried about things back home and whatnot. I understand.
And so I wanted to enjoy it. So but it worked out okay. It was actually good. I did Friday and Saturday, which was cool. So
and so I think you stepped by my booth or our booth on Friday then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to come back the second day, but I ended up getting
else.
I got pulled away.
It's always very distractive there.
Classic
you meet this guy and you get washed away in the in the sea of people.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And it was actually, I was just thinking of this when I was driving down here.
Yeah.
This was my first and only NAMM where I was not working.
Ah.
I have never in my life done a NAMM show before where I was not confined to a company or a booth, whatever. So basically, so Mezza Barba so the original plan was he was going to fly in, not to exhibit, because that's very expensive. It's very expensive, and the smaller companies,
of course,
but he was going to come in and just be around for NAMM.
Yeah.
But then, so not to give too much away, but so I'm signing a 1-album deal with a big label in this year, which would be my first time ever doing that. Usually it's independent, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Which I love. I still love that independent.
Of course, yeah.
But we're doing a 1-album deal with a company. So 1-album deal is great because it's not life or death.
Yeah, I mean, even if it goes wrong, financially you're not screwed.
Exactly.
You can move on and skip that one and do another one.
Exactly. Both parties. Yeah. There's no way that them or me would hurt each other there, really. Yeah. So we're doing this, and we're going to record the album in this summer. And Pierangelo said, "Oh, you know what? That's a better use of my time to come in and help with the gear and whatever." And so he's going to come in then instead of doing NAMM. So it's, because he has a young son now, so he only does an American trip once
a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Understandable. Know jet lag, and you've been to Europe, and you traveled, and it's a challenge.
I remember when I was younger, in my sort of early 20s, when people would talk to me about jet lag, I had this sort of, it's not that I didn't believe it, but I was just like, oh, yeah, I've heard about that and whatever. I guess someday I'll feel it. And then right around 31,
you started to feel it, really.
I said, okay, now I get it.
You get it, yeah. So Mesa Barba amps, Italian company, beautiful amps, very tasty tones.
Yeah.
I know him.
Exactly, yeah.
And for me, I have seen a lot of your clips on Instagram and the other.
Yeah.
And we actually met, I think it was 2020.
Yes. So I knew of you obviously many years before of that, just because I would play in Germany and see your poster, and you know what I mean. So I knew of
clubs,
you. Yeah. I knew of you. As a player. I knew of you before. And then in 2020, I remember your booth was right next to Mesa Barba.
So we're in the same aisle. It's like, hello.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think we even did. I don't have footage of it. Well, maybe JP or Pierangelo does, but I think we did even a cross. I think we even did like a Mesa Barba and BluGuitar jam because we just faced each other sideways.
I can hear you play.
I remember we did that briefly at the 2020. So that's when I actually formally met you. And then
likewise.
And then kept in touch, obviously throughout the pandemic and all that. But which was a crazy
time. How did you survive the pandemic?
Well, it's a weird thing. I have a mixed feelings on how much I feel a little bit of guilt, because I'll tell you why. Because obviously it was, for some families and for some people, it was a catastrophic time, whether they lost their business or they literally lost someone from the virus, right? So I don't want to make light of that, but for me personally, it was not a bad period, because it allowed me to do some things and work on things that I would have never had time to do
in a regular setting when everybody is working standard.
Yeah.
Same with me.
Yeah, and because there's things that there were a lot of little things in my career, mostly like logistical, administrative, like kind of behind the scenes stuff, right? That were being kind of, sort of pushed under the rug because of this. I was just in a kind of a routine of like, okay, 3 or 4 big tours, come home, do an album, go back out. There was this hamster wheel thing.
And you couldn't throw in new stuff. And now with the pandemic, everything stopped, and there was the free time.
Exactly.
And this was the starting point to really try out that new stuff that you always have been waiting for to do, which you never could achieve.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was, and financially it was very interesting too. And I also have a little bit of guilt about this because a lot of my fellow musician colleagues who don't really know too much about, they don't have like, I don't know, a money guy or somebody managed, or like an accountant or something. A lot of my musician colleague buddies would be, they didn't really do their taxes quite, properly, whether intentional or not. Sometimes not. Sometimes just ignorance to the thing, right?
Yeah, and a musician is not the best tax accountant.
Oh, and me either. I just happen to be lucky that, so I'm the only musician in my family.
Yeah.
Everybody else in my family, it's really funny actually, because it's like, you know, my dad was in banking. My uncle's a surgeon. My aunt is an attorney. It's like they all had like the
proper jobs.
Yes, exactly. And I was the black sheep, but I don't mean in a bad way. I mean that just I was the creative type with the longer hair and everything.
Yeah.
And that's been great. But because of the fact that I was surrounded by people that had a lot of knowledge in these other fields, that was the reason why. So when the pandemic hit, I didn't know what to do, but my dad called me. My parents live in Florida, and my dad said, "Hey, go to this website and apply for this thing and blah blah." So and by listening to him, I survived. Actually, no, I'll actually go as far as to say thrived during the pandemic, because what they were doing was the state and the federal government were both giving money out based on your 2019 tax return.
We had the same thing in Germany as well.
Right.
So I mean, if you had a good year in 2019,
you got paid that
amount of money,
exactly.
and that was a very nice compensation.
Right.
If you were the lucky 2019 heavy touring artist.
And I happened to be.
Okay.
2019 was a big year
Good
because.
on you. Hey.
Yeah, because 2019 was the first when I started working with Mezza Barba. So they brought me over that first year with them, and we did all kinds of clinics and touring.
Yeah.
So luckily that my 2019 tax return showed a pretty good number. So then basically, so what's wild, it was really crazy too, because and also this is something funny people don't think about. So California has a different like living wage, or there's a term. Like standard of like they have a different sort of like economy than a lot of the rest of America, right?
Well,
cost of living, I should say.
Yeah, for me, California is pretty expensive. I mean,
it is.
If you buy a beer here, the other day I played a rooftop jam. One beer was $11. And the parking at the NAMM show.
Oh my God!
It's. I remember days when it was $8, then 10, 15, and 20, and now it's 25.
Oh, and it's gonna keep going up. You're gonna do $5 every year. I bet you it'll be 30 next time. And so LA being expensive. Well, sorry, the state of California being expensive.
Yeah.
So what was really wild about the pandemic period was the federal government. So no matter what state you lived in, if you were an American citizen, they were giving out a certain amount per week, right? But then also the state you're living in kicked in their own amount.
Oh, super.
So the fact that I happened to be living in California
twice.
You see,
Ooh,
it got real. I don't want to say the amount because I don't. But it got to the point where it was like, this is almost like the money that I was making during the pandemic was absurd. It was shocking.
Super.
It was shocking.
But okay, then you had a budget,
right?
To proceed the projects that you usually couldn't do, also on because of the money.
Right, and it also just held me over. Because it wasn't even so much like, okay, now I have money to do things. It was actually, for me personally, it was I knew, because I was doing Skype calls with my manager during the pandemic, and we knew that, the minute this thing goes away, we had all these dates ready to go, right, to launch. So it was more about holding myself over financially so that way I could keep the thing running and keep the engine kind of idling just long enough to go back out.
Yeah, nice.
And that was the thing when I would have discussions on the phone with my close colleagues in the business. That was the thing that derailed a lot of people. It wasn't so much like, oh, I have all these big plans. Right. It was that they didn't have enough money to hold them over till when the world reset.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that I learned from that period, is that having that nest egg to just hold me over until I got back out there was a lucky break.
Very good.
Very lucky.
Hey, I have a little clip when you showed up at our booth. This was Friday, right? Yeah. The second day. Yeah. And it's like you played my guitar.
I did.
And you played, I think it was the same sound like we just have now.
Right.
The setting here is like we are literally in a very small room.
Yep.
And we have only one mic, which is coming from my laptop here.
Oh, right.
And that's the whole thing.
Gotcha.
So whatever you hear is what you hear through a laptop.
Perfect.
And we are plugged in on my amps, and you brought your beautiful guitar. But what I kind of like about that clip is you played my guitar.
Right. I didn't even bring any of my own stuff. Yeah.
And you sounded just like Eric Steckel.
Right. That's funny, right? How that works. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so let's watch that little clip.
That's great. I don't even think I've seen it yet, so it's fun.
Yeah, it feels good, man.
Yeah.
I might actually, I'm thinking about doing that, actually, trying that maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you make these as well.
It was great to see you with my guitar,
Sure,
being
sure.
you, and,
Right.
and you sound, just like
Yeah.
Eric Steckel.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
and
The
I mean-
DNA of the player kind of just comes forward, right? It's
yeah.
just, yeah.
And what I like about your, about your style, I mean, it's blues, but it's kind of blues on steroids.
Yes,
It
yes.
is that kind of, you can do the pitch harmonics.
Right.
You can do those repeating licks. I think that's one of your
Yeah, right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Right, that
Stuff like
very
that.
circular kind of
Yeah.
playing. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
so great at that.
Oh, thank you, man.
I mean,
Thank you.
and I can tell that this is your thing. I mean, this
Right,
is,
right.
everybody throwing their own style.
Absolutely,
David Gilmour
absolutely.
has the whammy bar,
Right,
and
right.
long notes. But this, I
Yeah.
mean, this is outstanding. The only guy that has it for me, or had it, was Gary Moore.
Right.
I don't know how big of an
Well-
influence he was to you.
Number one.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, Gary Moore was the first. I remember as a young. So my for folks who, because in the last couple of years, I've had a lot more exposure than like I had. There's a lot of people watching me in the last 2 years. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, due to things like some viral videos,
Yeah,
Facebook, all this stuff,
sure.
right? But what's funny, so people that maybe just know me now,
Yeah.
they see me with the nags and humbuckers and
yeah.
high gain amps, no pedals, right?
Yeah.
And they might think that's what I always was.
No, you have a lot more.
Right, and
Yeah.
so my origin was
Yeah.
very, and it's also it's a reflection of the time period. So I was born in 1990.
Yeah.
So if you think about the time, it's like by the time of the mid 90s into late 90s, when I was a kid and got my first guitar, Stevie Ray Vaughan was the legend that people were still mourning, because when he died in 90, like what he did in the 80s for the blues,
Yeah.
he put the blues back into the public sphere. It was like
I remember in Germany, I heard David Bowie's Let's Dance album.
right.
And it was shocking.
Yeah.
Because at that time, we had pop music, plastic synth pop,
Totally.
like...
It was the sound of that era, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then this rough blues guy,
Right.
blues as it can be, in
Right.
in this kind of weird environment. I mean, this is the thing about
Yes.
the Brits. Sometimes they mix whatever, mince and meat
Right.
and chocolate and
Yes,
and
yes,
ketchup.
absolutely.
And they make it work. And
Yeah.
this was this production. And so I went, wow.
Yeah.
Dub, Nile Rodgers rhythm
Yeah.
guitar, and then
And then that Strat neck
Yeah.
pickup, like fat. Yeah, you're right.
wow.
It just comes out of the speaker like a freight train, man. And
Yeah.
so for me in the 90s, it was like everybody was, and that was an interesting time, and I'm grateful for having been born in that time, because that was, everybody was looking for who's the next SRV.
Yeah.
And we can get into that discussion as well, because
Yeah.
that I have some interesting feelings and opinions on that. But
Yeah.
it was that period, although there were a lot of people really trying to emulate Stevie, and by the late 90s, of course, there was a backlash on that, because anytime something,
Yeah.
I always look at it like a pendulum, right?
Yeah.
Anytime it swings too far this way, it's going to swing farther that way.
Back,
So by the late 90s, every kid that could play had the musical note strap,
Yeah.
the hat with the feather, the distressed Stratocaster,
Yeah.
with the black guard.
Yeah.
Everybody was, and I felt bad for the legacy of Stevie, because you know, there were so many copycats by the late 90s, early 2000s that there was a bit of a backlash, not against Stevie himself, but against that kind of approach and that Strat slinger thing. So because it was just oversaturated, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's not special anymore.
Right. It lost the edge.
Yeah.
And But I, you know, since I came up in that period, I was a Strat guy, you know, and not even. Later, I did Strats with the bridge humbucker, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but we're talking in the early days, man. It really was all Strats. And when John Mayall picked me up, that was still in my Strat era.
Okay.
And my rig for all the John Mayall shows was literally a rented, you know, twin or deluxe, whatever, blackface.
Yeah, and a pedal.
Maxon OD808, which I liked more than the TS808.
Okay.
The Maxon, I remember I was more nerdy about gear then than I am now. You know. But I remember back then, I had, you know, the reissue TS808 and then the Maxon OD808, which technically is the same thing.
Yeah.
But the Maxon was a little warmer.
Warmer,
Yeah. But anyways, you know, so I was a Strat guy, and it was Strat, you know, tube screamer and amp, and that's what I did for many years. And then somewhere along the line, I think I probably was a little bit influenced by the backlash, because it was in the blues industry, which is what I was in at that period.
Yeah.
It was palpable. You could feel that people were getting tired of the white kids Strat slinger thing, right?
Yeah.
And I remember what did it for me. I remember the moment that it actually really hurt me, and it was the moment that I said, okay, I got to be more original. Was how do I explain this one? So, the drummer in the original Derek Trucks band.
Derek Trucks.
Before it was the Tedeschi Trucks that now with his wife. Yeah. But back when Derek was still young, and the drummer was, oh my God, what was his name? I'm going to forget, yeah. Anyway, but he was also in the Royal Southern Brotherhood with Cyril Neville and Devin Hall. So I remember in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Yeah. I'll never forget this.
This is where Sweetwater is, by the way. Exactly. Been there?
Yeah. This was many, many years ago, of course. It was in another time for me. But I was on a bill with, you know, I think I opened the festival. It was a blues kind of festival. And then the Southern Brotherhood closed, whatever. And I remember the drummer, that guy. He came over to me and said, like, oh, yeah, you're the Stevie Ray kid, right?
I thought that hurts.
And and I don't necessarily... I'm not trying to imply that he was trying to hurt, but it was probably a Freudian slip or something.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and that was the moment that kind of hit me of like, that's not what I want to be known for at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Be yourself.
Yeah.
In the end, you know, there's only one Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Exactly.
And we can all get inspired by these great people.
Absolutely.
And we can even steal their licks, but make them your own.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Yes.
Talking about that, can you show us a little of these kind of propeller repeating
Sure,
things?
yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious because I think your right hand is killer.
Thank you. Yeah, that and some of this stuff is kind of more recent because in the last few years, metal guitar players that I thought I would never run into or I never thought they would dig me because I'm more bluesy, whatever. All of a sudden, in the last couple of years, because of my right hand,
a
lot of, you know, like Gary Holt from Slight, like a lot of these guys have reached out and said like, hey, listen, I know you're a blues guy, but he actually, a really cool thing he said to me one time in an Instagram message, he says, man, he goes, me and some of my buddies were actually watching and he said we were laughing at how your right hand is a metal player.
Yeah.
He said your left hand is blues, but he said your right hand is like us. You know, I was like, oh, okay, you know. So I do a lot of these like things with the flat five too, like I'll do like which is all down.
All down strokes.
All down, right?
Okay,
and then
this is Metallica speed, you know.
Totally.
You know?
And the best one, I like, that was D, but the best one is when you're doing an E, because you can get that low E. You know, and those kind of repeating things you're talking about, you know. it's this kind of like, I like this sort of
repeating.
Yeah, there's like a bounce, like there's like a swing to it.
It's
you know,
syncopated. It's like on the beat and off the beat, and that brings the tension.
Exactly.
For me, my hero in this respect is Blackmore, the early Blackmore.
Wow.
Because he plays so simple. He plays sometimes.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
In the beat, against the beat.
Yeah, there's a swing, right? And that's
anyway.
Awesome. It's true. And I something that I actually had to work on later in my career was like, sometimes, so I've noted, and I wonder if you feel this or if other guitar players listening might feel this, but like, so I know, so when you have a little bit of nerves and adrenaline, what I've noticed about my own playing is in those moments, I'm not swinging enough or as much as I would like to. You're more cerebral. You're
eighth, 16th concept instead of being loose and laid back.
Exactly. So I've had to work on, you know, and luckily because I tour so much, I've had the opportunity to work on this, right? But I make conscious efforts to say to myself, like, because you know, by the third or fourth song, of course, then you're loose, right? But you know, the first couple songs, I've made a real effort to say to myself, don't regurgitate licks so much. Don't, you know, because I think, you know, the brain, it's like if you're a kid studying for a chemistry test the next day, your brain holds it just long enough to pass the test, and your brain says, I don't need it anymore, right? And I think that if you approach licks and guitar like that, it's not going to be your best stuff. It's going to be...
It's something that you repeat and learn, but it's not your natural vocabulary.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, the coolest moments that you have as a musician and for the audience is sharing the moment where you are you.
And you're creating in the moment.
Exactly.
You're not just repeating memorized things, right?
Yeah, it's like, wow, how did I come up with this kind of note choice here?
Exactly.
What was this?
And that only comes about when your heart rate slows, and your adrenaline. That only comes when you're
not stressed. When you're in the music.
Exactly.
Which you, as you said, become after 3 songs or 4 songs. But you want to start a concert with the confidence of being, hey,
relaxed.
Yeah,
and I think probably any artist who has the luxury of playing for, you know, large audiences, especially a lot of which, you know, I purposely tell the venues that I play, like, I don't want seats. I want people right up, standing right in front of me, and
connect to them.
Exactly, and that makes a big difference, you know. But it's still, I'm sure every artist and every entertainer knows that first feeling when you walk out, because it's weird. This might sound, people might say, oh, it sounds like you're in like a high school talent show or something, but it was just stupid. I know I have to stop doing this, but I still have this thing in my head every night when I walk out that they might not dig me. Which is silly, because if they bought the tickets to be there, of course they're, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm playing an open mic night, of course. But there's still that entertainer fear that we all, it's back here.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know that too. Because we probably have also experienced a situation where you come, and especially at the times when they didn't buy the tickets because of you, because there was some music on, and you ended up in a situation that is probably not the best. So
and you got to make the best of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings some stress for you.
Yeah, and actually something interesting. So I'm very fortunate because, you know, I started playing when I was 9, right? So my first ever paying show was at 9 years old in my little hometown, $100, you know. And so I count that as like my start in the business, right? So if I count that, that means that this year I'm now 25 years, right? And so in those 25 years, I've been very lucky that most of the shows I do are what they call hard ticket, not a soft. A soft ticket is where people are there not for you.
And they just go for drinks and maybe they talk and the music is in the background.
Exactly,
and you're just that stupid entertainer that makes the noise.
Right, so those are what they call soft ticket things, where like a festival where the people are there no matter what. But then the hard ticket is where you have to bring them, right? Right, your name's on the ticket.
Exactly.
And I've been very fortunate that because I started so young and because John Mayall gave me a real push. I mean, before John, I mean, if you think about it, I was playing sports bars in Philadelphia,
as we all did,
you know, like to 35 people, and then literally, I mean, it really was this literally overnight. I'm on a tour bus playing for 5,000 to 7,000 people with John Mayall, going like, oh my God, right? So fortunately, because of that push, I've been, you know, I play mostly ticketed shows now, which is great. So that means that if they're there for me. But what's funny is, and this was, I'm glad this happened because it was great practice for me, because I've been so used to hard tickets now for years.
Yeah.
And my manager back in 2022, at the end of the year, said, "Hey, Eric, I have something that came across my desk. I don't think you're going to dig it, but let me ask anyways." He said, "You know Ace Frehley from Kiss?" I said, "Yeah, of course I know Ace Frehley from Kiss." And he said, "Well," he says, my partner, so my agent has a U.S. and German like partner kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, my partner books Ace and does Ace's California touring." He says they're looking for an opener for the Ace Frehley tour, the U.S. Ace Frehley tour. And he said, "Lucky for you, the tour starts in California. So the first 2.5 weeks are just California." He said, "Do you want to do it?"
Of course.
And I said, right. And it was winter time, so not a lot going on. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Yeah, but you know, this is not going to be the type of touring you're used to. This is not going to be the money that you're used to, because it's not about you, and it's not going to be the conditions that you're used to. The backstage isn't going to have the spread with your name on, you know."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what kind of rooms would we be working?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah, minimum 2,000 seats, you know, big."
Okay.
And I said, I checked with my guys, you know, and they were like, "Yeah, we're available."
Okay.
So we did the tour, and it was, because what you just said about the people are not there for you, but you still got to go out there.
Yeah.
You got to turn this audience. You got to make them love you.
You have to work
Yep.
to get the connections.
Right.
And that's a good challenge.
Right.
You have to learn a craftsmanship, how to get people that don't know you before.
Exactly.
I mean, the tickets, the guys that know you and have your records and know everything and come to the place, they know exactly what to expect. And it's so easy to connect.
Absolutely.
But with these kind of fresh people, it's who are you? And you go on stage and it's like, you do a little bit your thing and then you feel the reaction. It's like, oh, maybe I try this.
Yeah, and think about this too. It's not only it's all of that pressure, but not only that, it's you only have 30 minutes.
In the set.
So it's like double pressure, because you got, not only you're an unknown.
Yeah.
You're also walking into, and when I say like hostile territory, I don't mean it literally. Like, I'm not saying people are hostile. I just mean that it's not. It's like if you're out in the trenches in war, you don't know what the hell is going to happen, right? And that's kind of what it is. It's let's say it's an unfamiliar environment, right? So it's
for both sides.
Right. So we did that tour with Ace, and it was fantastic, because it humbled me to go out there and go, I gotta work for this now. This is not just a given. You know, this isn't gonna come out. This isn't like a celebration of, hey, you wanted me, here I am. It's like, you all don't even know who the fuck I am, and I gotta turn you. I gotta, in 30 minutes, I gotta convince you, right?
Very good challenge.
And it was great. And then what's so funny is, so I love this story, because the first night we started in Berkeley, California, right? First night. And first night we were really on our own. So Ace's crew, his guys, they wouldn't even look. I mean, we were less than, you know, a cockroach on the floor, right? We go out there, do our 30-minute set in Berkeley, and we came off that stage, and these guys and their wives and stuff that were, they were hugging us, and like, man, and we were just, in 30 minutes, we got these. By the end of that tour, Ace's tech was teching for me for free.
Wow. See, and this is the thing, I believe, it's honestly, and I mean, this is just honest connection that you have.
It was incredible.
By what you do. It's not about money. It's not about anything. It's just because of you being you.
Yes.
And they all
Yes.
can smell it and they like it.
Exactly.
And-
Exactly. Because the guys in his band are all, Ace Hire's all top, Nashville.
yeah.
So these guys that can smell
Yeah.
good and bad,
Yeah.
they know in 2
Yeah.
seconds,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it was just funny because by the end of that run, I mean, I get Christmas cards from the roadie still,
Yeah, super.
and then Ace had. Well, he obviously had his tech, a guitar tech, but then he also had kind of like almost like a personal assistant kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy, I remember, literally on the last night of the run, which was, I think we ended in like Upland or Ontario, somewhere east. And he actually gave me a gift.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, what, in a bag and everything? And I'm like, what is this? And it was like a really beautiful expensive edition of the book, The Art of War. Oh. Which is, Eastern philosophies and things. Because I was talking with him during the tour about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to go from night one, they would not acknowledge that we were even breathing. I mean, they walked past us like, who the hell, right?
These are the opening guys.
Yes.
We need something to warm the audience up.
Exactly.
To establish some noise.
To go from that to
below zero.
Right, less than zero. Exactly. To go from that to 3 weeks later, they're handing you gifts.
Yeah.
That was, to me, is like, man, that right there is like, that's one of those stories that whenever I'm, having a tough day, because there's a lot of tough days in this business.
And this tells you the truth.
Exactly.
Because it's, I totally get it.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important to have moments of truth like that.
Yep.
And if you live in a bubble, I have been in bands that were kind of very famous. We opened up for Michael Jackson one day.
Wow.
So it was, but they separate from the reality.
Right.
And what happens is they lose everything, and these kind of moments, they ground you because
absolutely.
It's like they give you a relationship that this is my craftsmanship, everything is right. I'm doing something right here.
Yes.
And this is giving you the energy back in the moment where you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not so good. Maybe I heard this other guy that,
Sure. But I love that. So, and this is an interesting topic. I'm curious your take on this, actually, because I ask everybody, I know this. Yeah. I've seen two personality types in the music business. There's the folks who say, I need to be the top dog in the room because if my ego isn't being stroked, I'm not comfortable. And then there's guys who say, I don't care if... there's guys who say, I will not learn or grow. I have to be around people who are better because otherwise I stagnate. And I never. So I know that I'm like the second one where I'm like, I don't need to be the best guy in the room because if I am, that gets boring really quick.
Absolutely.
Because you're not learning from anything.
Exactly.
And then you're just playing the same licks, and you get comfortable in like, oh, I'm good, so I can just phone it in, and and I'm externally motivated, right? So
same here. Yeah.
For me to get out of bed every day, I need there to be some kind of fire. Like, I don't mean literally, but like internal fire, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had this conversation with my dad, when I was visiting them in Florida for the holidays, and my dad is internally motivated. My dad's retired, right? Yeah. And technically has really nothing to do necessarily, just relaxing. He gets up 6 a.m. and he's like doing stuff. He can motivate himself. I'm not. Okay. I'm externally motivated. So what I mean is, if there aren't people out there who are great and are kicking ass that I'm maybe a little jealous of, I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to get out of bed.
Maybe for me personally, I think I have internal...
Okay.
And a little bit external.
Okay.
But for me, it's I call it nearly a disease.
Right.
I go up and I already I have the feeling of I need to do something. I have an idea. I need to write a song, or I want to work on my amps.
Right.
So that's
that's internal. That's a good internal motivation.
Channeling all my energy.
Right.
Right. And
interesting.
Yeah. But I don't want to be. Let's put it that way. I know I can wear two hats. One hat is, okay, I'm the boss of the company, and I'm the Thomas Blug that you buy the ticket for. But on the other hand, I love to be the second guy on stage. The singer is the main guy, and I'm just
Right.
supporting.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
I even book myself into tours sometimes, just to have that experience
Right.
where it's not about me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just to be with other people,
Right.
making new friends, experiencing different settings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there's a German tour called Go Music, and it's very simple.
Right.
There's a guy that books all the venues for 10 gigs or 12,
Sure.
and you join in, and he throws in, I mean, professional guys from different bands, and it's
Right.
like they send a set list, and there's no rehearsal. And
Nice.
the whole thing is like you go on stage and
Yeah.
and he says go music.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Improvisation literally every night. Like, yeah.
You know the songs, which
Wow.
is the foundation, but it's
Yeah.
like, hey,
I like that.
and that's a challenge which I have literally done like almost every year.
That's cool.
And that kind of connected me to other musicians. I made friends there, people that I started projects with.
Right.
So I love this kind of concept. And it's challenging because it's like you are thrown in the cold water. It's like
Yes.
jump.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
Yes.
hey, and he, the bass player is the organizer. He simply goes on stage and,
Right.
and then it's like, boo. What?
Yeah, but those are the best because that's what you have to do, because you don't get the vocabulary and the knowledge and the theory. You know, I feel bad for the generation of players, the young guys now, because if there's no, you know, there's less venues.
Yeah,
and
that's
and
bad,
and
yeah.
if there are venues, the big ones, you to get in there, you got to already have the audience.
Yeah.
So you know, the young kids, a lot of them are stuck in their room or on YouTube,
Yeah.
not because of a lack of talent, just
No.
because of the infrastructure isn't there anymore. You know, like there's always going to be the bigger venues, because those are like kind of like Live Nation
Right.
and like, you know, those can earn plenty of money to keep their doors open, and that's great once you get there.
Yeah.
But what people forget about is that the artists need that circuit
To experience themselves.
to learn how to perform.
Yeah.
You know, they need that 100-seat club circuit to exist to get to the 600 and 800 and 1,000-seat clubs that are subsidized and whatever. But so I'm lucky that because I was born in '90,
You
that
still had that connection to that.
yeah.
You know, like little clubs and grow
Exactly.
and make this experience. Like
Absolutely.
Van Halen, you know, when they
Right.
played Pasadena,
Yeah,
whatever.
the civic centers and all these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So I'm very lucky that I feel like, you know, the millennials, if you're a musician and you're a millennial,
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people bitching and griping on YouTube and Instagram about how hard it is to be a millennial artist because you got to make content and all this stuff. And I'm always like, shut up, man, because you're so lucky. If you're a millennial, that means you had both. You had pre-YouTube and post-YouTube in your life, which is the best you can. You know, you had the old way and the new way. So I feel like people in my age group are the luckiest.
Yeah.
You know, so when people complain about, oh, I got to make content, I'm like, okay, you got to make content, all right. But if this were 30 years ago, you might go into a meeting with a label and they don't sign you, and guess what? You're now back to nothing.
I see.
Because in those days, there was no way to propel yourself.
Yeah.
It was if the guy in the suit didn't like you, you weren't getting the record cut. You know,
and this was the end of your career.
Right. So I feel like
decided by one big boss in the company.
some guy with a cigar.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And
so
today you can do you start your whatever Instagram and YouTube channel.
Right.
And if it's any good, you will resonate.
it'll
with
eventually. Yes. Now
it's hard work.
Yeah, and I do understand some of the criticism of the social media era is valid, because something that because social media allows everybody to chime in.
Yeah. Everybody.
That's the problem.
There's no security on social media that says
right.
maybe not you.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
And that yeah, I know.
And that has become something that you actually, I would argue that today's players have to have a thicker skin than even the old guys, because today's players can literally wake up, open up their phone, and read a bunch of crap. People arguing, oh, he sucks. No, he doesn't suck. Oh, you're an idiot. Right? And that kind of talk was never entering. You know, it's like when Billy Gibbons was playing the Texas circuit with his guys. They weren't waking up to a bunch of back and forth crap about themselves in the press. You know, so I think that you have to be tougher now. Actually, than the old days, because now, man, people if they're miserable about their own situation, they'll lash out at you. And if you did nothing wrong, I've had people lash out in the comments at me, and I'm like, I don't even know who the hell this guy is. You know, it's like, so it's a strange time, but there is a lot of good to it, like you said.
There's options. There's opportunities.
Exactly.
And I think that every time has its pros and cons. And
absolutely.
And of course, growing up in between different eras, like myself, I started recording on tape in the studio when I was a teenager.
2-inch tape.
So I had to learn how to play a track, because when somebody was dropping you in, and if all the tracks were already taken, by drums and vocals and backing vocals, you had only one guitar track for the solo left, because all the rhythm guitars were already
It better be good.
So it's like, okay, 1, 2, drop me in here. And if the sound engineer did a mistake, you were fucked.
Yep.
And if I played shit, it's risky.
Because going back in and cutting that tape, I've talked to some guys that were doing that, on the old Studers and everything, and it's like surgical precision. If your hands are a little I mean, it's like doing a surgery.
It's like there is no way back.
Exactly.
It's like do or die, and you better be good.
Yes, exactly.
And that's also a nice aspect. Hey, so you are coming to Germany.
Absolutely.
We have you have a European tour, is it?
Yeah, so we start in Spain. So February 15th, I fly to Barcelona. Mm-hmm. Then we do the first couple of nights is just rehearsal and some master classes, clinics. Then the first show is February 20th in Barcelona.
Okay.
Then we do all the major cities of Spain. Then we do 2 nights in London. Then we do Netherlands, Belgium, and then the final leg. So those last, let's see.
German.
I don't have them memorized, so we're going to consult the poster.
Okay. I know a few of those clubs.
The last one.
Hypothalamus I played, Cologne, Yard Club. That's nice. Dortmund, piano I played.
That's a good one. That's a nice theater.
Old with a wooden floor.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds warm.
Oh man, I love that room. Yeah, that room is amazing.
Okay, and Übach, I don't know.
I haven't done that one. The others I've done, but the one is what is it? What is it? Übach. Yeah. I don't. I mean, I could be wrong. Correct me, folks. I don't think I've done that one.
Yeah. And you play the UK as well?
And that was super cool. It was supposed to be just one night. Yeah. And then it was really cool. We had to add a second night. Well, it's so funny because it's confusing. The second night is the night before.
Which was originally announced. So they sold out the second night first.
Correct.
And then they opened up the day before because...
So the 27th is the one that's sold out, but the 26th still has some tickets. And that's really cool. That blew me away because... The UK is a market that I really haven't done enough or as much as I would like to. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we sold out a show in an environment that I'm hardly ever there. Yeah. So that when I got that notification from my manager, that I was really stunned because it's not a place that I go very often. So that actually proves the power of the internet right there. Mm-hmm. That proves it,
Cool. I have one question. Somebody says in German. I just finished this. How much does the nanotube, that little tube, contributes to the sound of the amp? Honestly, it is working for that, but most people you think this only one tube is doing everything. That's not true. In my design, it is essential to have that tube, but it is used in the power amp. And people go, and every standard small tube design would use those tubes in the preamp. But, I mean, we talked...
What is it, 12X7, or what is it?
It is a very special tube. It's a Russian sub-miniature tube, last generation. It has no socket, it's hardwired, and it lasts...
Wow.
It will outlive us.
That's cool.
It's a... Yeah,
I don't even think I knew about that.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But you can tell the feel is right.
Sure.
I mean, when you plugged in with my guitar, with your guitar, it's like, did I change anything? Probably not.
No, it was just there.
It was there.
Yeah.
And this is very tubey, honestly, without having this many tubes as you usually would have if you go all tube style.
Right.
But
And it's getting difficult. I mean, tubes. This is a conversation that Pierangelo and I have a lot because it's a tough thing for amp builders right now because you can have an amp that is built like a tank, which the Mezobarbas are. I've literally actually had. I remember on a gig a couple of years back, I literally had a roadie put it on the dolly, and then like the wheel guy. I've had a Mesobarba literally fall face down on the front, and everything was fine. So an amp can be built like a tank, but the problem is, amp builders are not the ones making tubes. That's a third party,
supplier.
Yeah, and it's with all the nonsense in the world, and trade issues and politics and wars, and it's a problem. Getting good tubes now is a problem. And Pierangelo told me, he said, of course he buys big orders and stuff, but he told me, he said even the good company, even the good brands, he said sometimes, let's say you have 100 batches of tubes,
you have to select them.
You could have like 10 or 12.
You have to
be
throttle.
bad.
And because they're microphonic. That's the problem. We don't live in the era of tubes anymore. I mean, tubes in the 1920s, 30s, 50s.
They were readily available.
Because they were used in every kind of product, from televisions to whatever, aerospace. And like this tube that I'm using was used in Russian aerospace. And I bought a huge pile of them because I knew they are very rugged. So my pedal amps, they are on stage, and when the bass bins are shaking the stage. If it rattles, you got to make sure that it's really secure. I have seen my amps nearly flying on stage because when the bass drum hits, it whoosh, whoosh.
And they're light, so it doesn't take much. It's but I feel bad for all the amp builders now because it's like you said, it's like every other technology has gone way past the tubes, obviously, at this point. But guitar amplifiers, people still like the sound of tubes, and for good reason. But I feel bad for all the builders now because it's like they got to try to source tubes now in a different mindset than the old day. They got to like be really on top of it now.
You have to find sources for new old stock tubes. I mean, because they have been military graded, highest spec, because they had more money than the regular companies where anything that worked was good enough. And for the guitar amp, there are very critical stages
because of the sound, the tone. It's not just functionality.
Exactly.
Like a TV, you put anything in there. But it's and every little nuance is how hot or cold they're biased.
Absolutely.
Some tubes like to run hot. Some tubes hate to run hot. Some tubes you can't even run hot. It is a bit of a mess. I feel bad for the builders. I mean, obviously for me as just a player, I just know what sounds good, whatever. But I feel bad for the builders that they have to deal with this now.
Hassle. It's a hassle. It's a hassle.
Exactly.
And that's why I decided to go my way with more modern components and less tolerances of that,
I see. It's funny though. It's funny how the tube amp I think it's because from the 60s all the way through till, let's say, even the 90s, right? That period of music history it's on
everybody's mind.
It'll never come again. That was a special thing. And that sound, Led Zeppelin 1, Van Halen 1, it's like that because of those iconic sounds. That's the reason why in 2025 we're still making tube amps and things. It's because of that. It's just because of that period,
And for me, I mean, as much as I do love the convenience of digital stuff, I'm lacking the feel. And I grew up on the tube amps. And therefore, I founded my company because I didn't want to compromise. And I was looking for a way. I sometimes use plugins myself too. When I'm traveling and I have my laptop.
Of course, there's always logistical things.
And it sounds good. But it feels. I don't know how much you depend on feel.
I describe it as like, when you're plugged into an amp, especially when it's straight in, which is normally what I'm, maybe a wah or something, but it's very alive. Like the amp is this like living, breathing beast that is a little unpredictable, but I mean it in a good way. It's you don't know what notes are going to ring into feedback. You don't know which harmonics are going to pop, which ones don't. There's this unpredictable living, breathing organism
that you have to work it.
Exactly. Whereas, like, I've done some so on my own records, I always, I would never use a plugin on my own records because it's my own thing and I can choose what I want to do, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've done a lot of session work, especially this past year. I don't know, just a lot of sessions came in, and if the person's budget is only a few $100s and they just want to do a solo, well, I can't, for that amount of money, I'm not gonna roll out I'm not gonna, so for projects like that where people just want to pay me for just a solo, whatever, I will go to a studio of a friend's place and use a plugin, whatever. And the tone itself is fine. Yeah. It's just that there's no communication between you and the amp. It's just, you're just playing, and that's great, but you're not feeding off of each other.
Yeah, right.
It's a one-way street.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And when I play this kind of modeling devices, I tend to overplay it because it's like it's like if the string action would be too low. You know what I mean? It feels different, and I'm used to work the tone.
Yeah,
digging in,
right. Because that's what makes the tube amps compress and stuff.
Yeah, they have to push them a bit.
Right.
And then when everything is already there, when you just meet to hit the right note and everything is already blooming and
right. Yeah, and I think so. There's a very linear compression when you use plugins. Because even the really good ones, I know. I remember when this is going back a few years now, but when UA did like that amp suite, they did like the Diesel, the Friedman, the Engel. They did like a suite. And they were like kind of the first on the market. Like that was like, this was going back years now.
And it sounds killer.
And they sound killer. Yeah. But I remember when I was trying it out, because on one of my records, we ended up obviously using them as a bar, but on one of my records, the engineer was like, hey, I just want to hear how this sounds.
Yeah,
so I played a little bit. And I said, the tone is there.
Yeah.
But the compression is so linear that like there's no difference between the low string. Like it was so compressed that there was no dynamic. I couldn't do it. And if I rolled the guitar off, there would be the noise gate would be pumping in and out. And the plugin couldn't figure out how to clean up and stuff. So it's the tone is there, but the dynamics are not. And that's the big thing. If you're a dynamic player like you are, like I am, you need that living organism. To play off of, and I think in my lifetime, though, I mean, I'm only 35. I think in my lifetime we will see the technology
evolve to a certain level where it's getting better and better and better.
Yes.
I kind of do agree, but on the other hand, I'm not the guy. I try to preserve as much as possible from the analog era into what I'm doing. But combining this thing with the digital control for the guys that need that.
Absolutely.
I mean, with this unit, with the MX, I can do presets and it has effects on it because a lot of players, they need that kind of thing. A blues player like you know, cable, guitar, amp,
exactly.
done.
Yeah, exactly.
And who cares about? You don't need to have big reverbs and stuff like that. It's just.
It reminds me of I think Steve Gadd said this, but it's possibly maybe he got it from somebody else. But this I think of this a lot when I do festivals, when I do fly dates. The quote is, "You got to get it done on anything."
Exactly.
And I think Steve gets it, meaning that if he shows up and it's a bunch of cardboard boxes, if there's 1,000, you got to entertain the people. You got to get it done somehow.
I mean, if you're a great player, you should be capable of dealing with almost anything.
Yeah, and I have. I mean, this past year we did a couple, and I love the festival season because what I love about festival season, it's not even it's actually just a selfish thing. I just love travel so much. I really love that and get off on that. So what I love about the festival season is, you're not driving around in a Sprinter or a bus, or you literally fly in with a gig bag. Sometimes it's just one of my nags and a cable and a tuner, right? Literally, sometimes it's all that's in my bag. And, there's full back line. They take you from the hotel in a shuttle right to the stage, right?
Go.
And so I love those. But what happens with those is you don't have your fancy rig and everything, or your guitar tech isn't there. So it's that Steve Gadd thing. It's like, well, I did a gig actually just recently. We flew to Estonia.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know on the map where that was at first.
I watched
right?
the video, and I think the amp broke or something.
Yeah. There was they had two. The backline company had two Fender DeVilles.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first one, because I had everything just dimed.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing.
Of course.
Right.
And
so the amount of the amount of output that was probably coming out of my guitar and going into that poor DeVille
was too much.
The third song I blew it, and luckily the second one lasted for the whole rest of the gig.
Yeah.
But that's the point. It's just that in those moments, you just got to get it done. There were 5,000 people out there, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be. These people want a good show. I'm not gonna be up here looking all miserable because it isn't my mezza bar, but that I'm used to. Just go and play. And entertain the people.
I had a similar story, but at the end of last week, I did a little tour of like 3 gigs in a row. And since my amps are so small, I had them in the bag.
Right.
And I left them in the venue. So we were driving to the next venue.
Yeah.
And then by the time of setup, I look in the trunk of the car and said, where's my amp? And my amp and my spare amp was there.
Oh, that is a nightmare.
And then I go to the club and said, I do have my cabinet. The cabinet was in the car.
Okay.
And then somebody in the club said, this is this little village here in Swabian near Stuttgart.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a PV, whatever. I said,
right.
anything
that makes sound.
Any amp will do.
Right.
Give me whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, and
scary.
I put it on 12.
Oh yeah, because those PVs go to 12, right? Yeah.
I put it on 12.
Yeah.
I put in my cabinet because I didn't like the 10s of the PV because I'm more rock. And you know what? It took me half a song, and I could play the gig.
Right.
And it sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
It sounded like me.
Yeah, and I love this topic too because a piece of advice that I would give to players is and I know this from firsthand is the more you play different types of rigs, so like let's say so for any guitar players, go play your friends' rigs, go play because I remember recently I got a call last minute to go do a couple years back Andy Aladort who's he's pretty well known. He was like one of the editors, like Guitar Player, I think, or whatever. He was one of those guys that did those lick videos back in the day.
Lick library.
Yeah, he was kind of like, and he wrote a couple years back. He wrote a biography on Stevie Ray Vaughan that people say is probably the best one. There's a bunch of them, but people are giving him praise like that's probably the best one written. Right. And he did like a book tour and a book party, and he did one in Los Angeles at the Sugar Mill. That's that that guy Cadillac Zach. He does that, right?
Yeah.
So at the last minute, Zach calls me, goes, "Hey, we're bringing a bunch of people out for this big thing. Can you get down here?"
Yeah.
He knew I lived up in there.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And I said, I don't have time to get my amp though. It's at my friend. And he goes, "Just bring your guitar."
Yeah.
And there's a video of it on YouTube, so people can check it out. The only amp that was left for me was a PV Bandit.
Ah.
That amp. Okay, let me put it this way. That amp. Has less tone. I could have played this guitar with a microphone on the that amp actually has negative tone. It actually sounds so bad that it makes you worse.
Two amps in the world, and the other one is a Roland Jazz Chorus.
Oh my God, horrible.
But anything else, I can try.
You can get a tone out of it.
Yeah.
Any blackface Fender, any Tweed.
Yeah, whatever.
Because I mean, basically everything that we do. Even up to these modern high gain amps that I use and love, it all starts with that basement circuit. That Fender basement circuit is where we're starting.
Even the Marshalls were copies of Fender basements.
Exactly, just with more gain and so it's But the PV Bandit and the Roland Jazz Chorus. If you get stuck with those on a festival and you don't have a drive pedal,
then you're fucked.
I would almost just say I'd almost pay the audience the money back.
Don't hear me through this thing.
I don't want to.
I cannot do anything.
It's crazy, right?
Okay, I have a few things about the NAMM show because we both have been at NAMM.
Absolutely.
And I want to start with a thing of people that I have seen. Maybe have you? What are your memories about a NAMM show? Is there like 2-3 things that were kind of sticking out? Like, oh, this was so cool.
Well, it was interesting. I think I told you before we went live, but it was the first time in my entire career that I had a NAMM where I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And it was so literally. I mean, I've been going to NAMM for almost 2 decades. normally I'm with somebody or in some capacity. You know what I mean? I'm doing something. But this was, I was floating around, kind of enjoying it like a spectator, and it was fun to just kind of see everybody and socialize.
Yeah.
I think that's what I got. That's what was cool about it for me this time on a personal level, was the social aspect, because normally I'm just if Nags is there, but
you have to work.
I'm kind of working, you know? Or you take a break to get a hot dog or something and then you come back.
Yeah.
But this time and that's what got me in your booth, because I was just free to walk around and, you know.
And for me, 50% or even more of being at NAMM is meeting the people. It's unbelievable. I'm doing this NAMM or this trade show thing for ages, and the people that I see and meet are becoming friends because it's like over years and decades. Let me.
Do you do the NAMM? Have you done it like almost all the time, or do you do?
I think I have done all NAMM since, I don't know, since the middle 90s.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm old. But hey, let's watch some pictures here, and I give you my comments on who I met.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Where's the builder here? Okay. But this is my colleague Valeska. This was the early morning breakfast.
Nice.
And then we were ready for NAMM. And this is Carl Verheyen.
Oh yeah.
You know him?
Yes. We haven't met, but I know who he is, obviously.
He lives in Topanga Canyon Road.
Yeah, he was right up there with where the fires were.
Yeah.
You know.
And I talked to him. His house is safe.
Yeah,
he was so lucky. I was looking at the map.
That's super lucky.
Yeah, before I came here, and I thought, okay, where have the fires been? And I looked literally on the map and thought, it must have killed Carl, and it was not. I was so happy to hear that he's
unbelievable. Because the fire, the last few days of it, it was literally just going up Topanga Canyon.
Yeah.
So he's extremely lucky.
Yeah, he lives kind of all the way up there, you know this guy. A British guy. It's you know that pedal show.
Oh, okay.
It is there's two guys in the UK that have a YouTube channel checking pedals. This is Daniel Steinhardt.
Gotcha. No, I don't know him.
A sweet guy. I think he lived in Australia for very long. Now they do this show, and their studio. They have a YouTube studio. Is where. Stonehenge is.
Wow, that's cool.
So when you ever get invited there, maybe we never know. It is, you drive past this historic thing. It's like
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. This is Stonehenge.
I haven't seen Stonehenge in person.
Yeah, it is something.
Doug,
Doug Aldrich. We met last year at Guitar Summit and things. This is a metal YouTuber, Glenn Fricker.
Oh, I think I've seen a few of his things. Yeah, he looks familiar.
Yeah, and he's very brutal, but honestly, he was such a sweet guy. When I did my metal version, high gain version, the Black Amp one,
right, I
asked his advice.
Yeah.
And he was, we even met here at Sunset at a studio where Ace Frehley has recorded one of his albums.
Oh wow, small world.
So after the NAMM, I was teaming up with him, and he was playing, and it's like, yeah, Thomas, maybe you need a little bit of the truck here. And
that's a great resource to have. Somebody like him that is honest and is going to tell it to you straight.
In the end, honesty is the only thing that works. I love good criticism.
Sure. Sure. If it's constructive, it helps.
Exactly. Greg Koch?
Oh yeah. Of course I know him. I haven't crossed paths with him in a long time, but
killer.
He was just out here.
Yeah. That's a guy from New York, Hub Kaffner, business guy, EMG, and many. So,
Oh, Jared. Yeah, I haven't seen him in forever too. We did because he's a Seymour Duncan guy, as well as I am, and we did a thing at the 2018 NAMM show. We did it at the Marriott stage there inside.
Yeah.
That year, Duncan sponsored that stage. So and they hired me to be the host. So my rhythm section and me, and then we had guys come up, and him and I jammed, and a bunch of other Duncan guys came up, and that was, I haven't seen him in all that time. Can you believe it's been that long?
Yeah.
But there he is.
I played with him in Mannheim for the Guitar Summit, which is
I missed that. Yeah.
That's a thing that you should also come to.
Yeah, that was. I'm gonna do that, but then some things came up, family related. But
of course,
I'll do it eventually, though, for sure.
Okay, hope to see you there. but that's James Santiago
from
Universal Audio.
Yep,
We're
Universal
talking
Audio.
about
Yep.
the guy who did the digital pedals.
Right.
And for me, he is one of the best guys in this world because he's first a great player.
Right.
He's got all the old amps, and he tries to translate as much as possible
Right.
into this digital world.
Oh yeah.
So and I know the guy for maybe 30 years already.
It's incredible. I mean, I haven't met him and I haven't played but the samples online that I heard of that the what like the 68 plexi kind of thing they did.
It's very authentic.
Man, it sounds good. Yeah.
No, he knows what he's doing. Good guy. Jeff Lewis.
Oh, Jeff. Yeah, he came in 2020. He came by the Mesa Barba booth, and that's where I met him. And we talked for a few minutes.
Nice guy.
Super nice guy.
So Dave Friedman. And there's a bunch of pictures. So he first came to my booth, and then I checked out his booth, and he showed me his. Jose.
I saw that he's doing
tribute amp, and I kind of like some of the amps that he's doing, and
I didn't get a chance to stop by there, and but I saw after NAMM was over, I saw that he's doing the Jose tribute thing, which is a good idea. Yeah.
I will hopefully do a full episode when I get hands on this amp. It's back in Germany.
Gotcha.
So then I can compare it to my Marshall collection and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Batten.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know she was in them. Yeah.
Yeah, she was my first customer. She bought this kind of thing when it just came out. That is George Palacios, the drummer of. I think he played with Rick Springfield. I join a rooftop jam like every year. And he's one of the drummers there, and he's maybe the favorite.
Wow.
Okay, that's a German guy, Justin, not Justin, Justin Hombach, and he is Mr. Right Hand Metal Speed. Wow. This guy is crazy. He gets up like 4 a.m, and then he does mechanical exercises like how fast can you? He has everything like. String skipping and swapping and economy and whatever picking. This guy is crazy.
It's amazing how precise today's players are getting.
Yeah.
It's a new world,
Yeah, I can't do this. But anyway, so he was stepping by. Then we have Trevor Wilkinson from the UK.
Right.
Yeah, he makes my hardware.
Yeah, never met him, but know who he is. Yeah.
He invented the roller nut for Fender.
Right.
He was working with Fender, knowing Leo Fender back in the day. So
pretty amazing.
This guy is a crazy nice inventor. Andy Timmons.
Oh yeah, Andy. Okay, yeah. Usually I see him at the Dallas show.
Sure,
that's the one. Yeah.
Where he is also from. He's
exactly.
From Texas.
I see him usually there with EJ.
Yeah, and this is a German guy, Andreas Kloppmann, who makes my pickups.
Oh right, I know of his pickups.
Yeah. Okay. And there's another guy, Matt Smith, joining in. He is a killer slide player.
Okay.
And a great singer. He has one thing. I played with him. I will never forget. I think we played with Little Help from My Friends.
Oh yeah.
And he sings that one note where Cocker usually screams.
Yeah.
And he can sing that one note like for a minute.
Wow.
Circular
You can
breathing.
hold that. Yeah.
I have no idea how it is, but it's like. Hey, this guy doesn't stop.
That is it is a skill. That's a very specific thing, to be able to hold those notes like that,
You know this scary monster?
Oh yeah, it's funny, we never met, but my drummer my drummer's Italian. They've known each other for years.
Matteo Mancuso.
Yeah. So there's a connection there through my drummer and I didn't see him at NAMM. I didn't cross paths with him. But
outstanding technique.
Yeah,
nice guy. Italian.
He'll probably. I bet you he'll. So in Rome every year they do this Musica thing, which is kind of like a Mannheim, NAMM. Yeah. And he usually. I'll probably see him there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this is wait a minute. He's a metal player in Meshuggah. What's his name?
I think a few weeks
Nielsen.
ago.
Per Nielsen.
I saw a video of him a few weeks ago, so I recognized the
Per
face.
Nielsen.
Yeah,
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
I played with him.
He's a very clever player. Like his lines are very well phrased and thought out. Yeah.
Nice. That's Perfecto Di Castro from the Philippines, but he lives also here in LA area, like a teacher guy that has practice makes perfecto, and his name is Perfecto. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's cool. Yeah, I never actually met him, but I mean I know him, but we never met in person.
There's a little story that I have with him.
Yeah.
I was in Larvik, was it Norway?
There's a thing up there.
Yeah. A show.
A guitar show, yeah.
And I was there, and Jennifer Batten was there. So we teamed up and learned like Highway Star in harmony.
Oh yeah, the parts. Yeah.
So, and he was there in this kind of hotel, and they have done weird photo shoots, and he couldn't see us, but we could see him. So, and then we both decided that we scare him.
Gotcha.
And it was so funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I want to meet this cat. He seems like an interesting dude.
Oh yeah, he's interesting, and he's killer player too.
Yeah, I know that Mezza Barba. Yeah. He was one of the guys that that Mezza Barba sent some stuff to do demos and things, and he was great. Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah. So this is Rich. This is a guy from the UK that used to work for me. Now he's with another German brand, Richard Morgan.
Okay.
This is Thomas Nordic. He's the tech of Steve Vai. And
wow.
And he used to be the tech of Frank Zappa as well.
Gotcha. Well, I do know who this guy is because a good friend of mine, JP Cervoni, who lives here, has done things with him. So what a small world, isn't it? Like almost everybody that I'm seeing up there, we have some connection to.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
And this is why I love the NAMM shows so much. Valeska again.
There you go, nice shot.
Yeah, and this was the rooftop jam with my two amps.
Yeah.
And I think
what building was? What hotel was that?
This was the fifth near in Anaheim on Harbor Boulevard.
Yeah.
It is a rooftop. You go to the whatever.
Yeah.
It's maybe the fifth floor.
Must have been cold up there.
This was the day before NAMM. It was warm, but it was super windy. Hey guys, for those, I will make an episode because I shot a lot of footage with very funny moments.
Right.
Me dancing, me playing keyboards.
Nice.
And heads flying off heads.
Yeah, I mean, because the wind in January in LA, the winds are. That's what we have here.
Santa Ana winds.
Oh yeah.
I think it was so dry. My lips are still.
Oh yeah, it was so dry. I remember walking around at NAMM. This NAMM, I remember everybody was like, "Hey, is there any chapstick anywhere?" Everybody, because the humidity is so low out here in California. It's like 10%. Yeah. So it's like your skin gets so dry and stuff, And I remember
this guitar I brought from Germany.
Yeah.
And the neck was like this. After a day,
yeah, I know.
So I had to readjust the truss rod.
Totally.
And now it's okay. I wonder what happens when it comes back, but I believe that it's good when the guitar changes climate because
it acclimates.
It acclimates, and this is what I like about my old Strat, for instance.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything. I can have it freezing in the trunk in the car in the summer.
It's solid.
It's so solid. It
Interesting.
It stays in tune even after a week.
It's funny, I feel that way about Nags because I was playing before with Nags. I was playing Tom Anderson guitars, which were great, and some other and my old Strat even before that. Yeah. And those I was adjusting a lot.
Yeah.
And the Nags, man, it's like it's once in a blue moon that I have to do any kind of movement with the neck or anything or adjust. It's
super high quality guitars.
They're very they just seem to maintain very well. They don't seem to and actually, and this might shock people, but. Starting in 2023, I had to make a real tough decision, and I had to really swallow this. I was always, as most guitar players are, I was always if you're going to travel with a guitar, soft bag, but up in the bin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that way it's with you get your eyes on it, it's on, right?
Yeah, you know what's happening to the guitar.
And that worked for me for a long time. I got away with that for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And but what's happened lately is that, two things have changed. So I don't really book the flights for myself anymore, really. It's always done by the festival promoter, the agent, right? Which means that of course, they're going to look for the cheapest option, and sometimes it's not even an airline that's an American company. Sometimes it's some whatever. So you got no perks with this airline. You didn't book the ticket.
Yeah.
You didn't pick the seat, right? So if you show up and let's say you're in zone 7 on the ticket, there's no room in the bin. You're screwed. And they say, okay, sir, we're going to take the guitar, right? So I had to, starting in 2023, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to just deal with this in a real way. So I had Reunion Blues, which is a great company that makes amazing cases and stuff.
Right.
And they make a double. It's not the one for people watching. They have a cheap budget one with a little bit of padding. No. You got to get the expensive one. Yeah, it's a double.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call it it is a bag, but it's completely reinforced rubber.
Yeah.
You could probably drop that thing off of a roof and the guitar wouldn't even be out of tune. Like it's so
super.
Solid, and it's a double, so I can bring
2 guitars.
So starting in 2023, I've done that, and then I also learned another trick too, is that since it's considered oversized luggage, that's another great thing, because oversized luggage, it never goes on the conveyor belt.
Yeah, so you hand delivered to the special...
To and from.
Yeah.
So literally, I remember when I landed in Rome, and a guy walks over to me with the thing, and it had the special thing on it, and I realized this is actually the best way to do it, because first of all, you don't have to worry about getting into a fight with somebody for the bin space, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about them taking your soft bag and putting it down with the golf clubs and the animal crates and things.
Yeah.
So it was a lesson, a touring lesson that I learned. Usually it's $100.
I know, it's $100.
But it's money well spent, because.
So here is my solution if you don't want to invest $100.
Right.
I have my Strat, and then I take off the neck. And,
oh wow! Yeah.
And I have put some grooves here, so I have a scent. Because
Gotcha.
you're not allowed to have a screwdriver with you.
Right. That's right.
So I can unscrew the neck and then put it in my bag, and
it's like this. Yeah. It takes up no room. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what I do. But of course, it only works with bolt-on. With screwed necks.
Exactly. I had a bass player that did that one time for a trip. We did a festival thing, and it was like a last-minute thing. And he took the neck off, and then got away with it.
But I have to look at your case, because that's something that I should have as well.
Oh yeah, I was thinking, did I? Yeah, it's out in the hall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. And that case, I can attest to the fact that case has been in 24 countries now.
Yeah, so
I've done, and it's solid.
You travel the world.
If it would have broken, it would have broken by now.
Yeah.
So it's solid.
Yeah.
And trust me, like for people listening, like I was the last. I went as long as I possibly could before having to just settle for that, because the way the airlines operate now, everything is an add-on.
I know.
Everything's a la carte.
Yeah.
You have to pay for this, pay for that.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're not the one, when I play festivals, they book this. I don't have like access to. So
extra add-ons.
Yeah. So you just show up and you just got to be prepared and whatever. And but I did fight that for many years, and then I eventually lost that battle. So I just said, all right, the airlines won on that one.
Right. Okay. I have a few things more about NAMM.
Cool.
Here. What was the big rumor at NAMM? Dumble is back. Okay.
Right.
So, and
I didn't go in there. You checked it out?
I checked it out, and then I watched something online. And it's funny because I know the industry people, and there's a guy called Drew Berlin.
He was a guitar dealer, right? Like
exactly.
He was,
He's selling those 59
bursts and stuff like that. Yeah,
from the Burst Brothers. He has a band, curly hair. I know this guy too because blah blah blah. And then I saw they talked to the Dumble family, and now they kind of recreate some of the old designs and do new stuff. On the one hand, I don't know if I would ever pay this much money for a guitar amp. Probably not.
Right.
I don't know the prices anyhow. But
sure. I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done by these people, they are great people and they know what to do. But it is a different. For me, it's more a collector's thing.
So let me ask you. So are they? Because I know, like you said, of course, there's the collectible side of the market, which is whatever, but are they, because I did see the guy, I saw a little clip of the guy with the ponytail talking about that we're making new Dumbles. They're not they're not asking the Dumble prices for the new ones, are they?
I hope not.
Because that's really taking advantage.
Yeah.
Then I mean, probably not. But even I bet you it's still too much for whatever it is. I'm sure.
I haven't heard about any price for these amps. The thing is, of course, there's a huge legacy and a huge story behind it, and for me, it's just another guitar amp. Honestly, I mean, Mesa Barber amps or whatever brand they do their flagship amps.
Yeah.
They put a lot of love and they try to get the best components.
Absolutely.
And then you end up with a few $1,000s, and that's it. And but if you have triple that money, it is not my world anymore.
No, it does get crazy, and I know, and something really what people. So out of all, I've always in the last 10 years, I've used a lot of high gain amp brands, and was with Bogner forever, and then got into the Diesel Herbert, used that for a while, did a couple records with the Herbert, which is cool.
Many German guys.
German, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Diesel.
Peter Diesel.
Yes, and these are great guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop for N, Diesel, and they're great. Yeah. And I used and I still love the Herbert and all that, but it was. It's funny because I had this conversation with actually at NAMM with one of the Bogner guys that we just, even though I don't play Bogner, we're still friends, whatever.
Of course.
And what we were basically saying, once you get up to that level, we're talking Aston Martin versus McLaren. Like they're all great.
Absolutely.
So it's just a matter of flavor at that point. It's just choose your flavor. And I know, and what's cool about the fact that I got to know Reinhold, Peter Dietzel, and then of course, the one I know really well, of course, is Pierangelo Mezzabarba, because we're more of a family thing, and I've hung out with him. And what I know from all three of those guys is that they're not. The profit margin is less than. I guarantee it's less than what anybody thinks.
I know that.
You know that.
I know that, and this is something some people start to moan. Oh, it's a tube amp, and they ask $4,000.
Right, people bitch about it. And
no, they have no clue. They have no clue because
it's the parts.
It's the parts.
Right.
You throw away 15-20% of the tubes.
Absolutely.
Then you have to spend weeks, months to source the good stuff.
And you got to have payroll. You got people. Pierangelo needs a guy doing the wood. The total. You can't just. If he were to build everything by himself, he'd only be able to make like 50 amps a year. Like it would be way too slow. And so people don't think about these things.
And for me, it's like going to a restaurant where the chef is cooking the meal. That's the tube amp companies.
Right.
And then there's the other corporate McDonald's style companies that have mass production.
Exactly.
And of course you get the same amount of calories, but the different
taste. The quality is it's not even in the same ballpark. Yeah.
So and you have to pay for quality.
Right. Exactly.
And it's not. Yeah. And when you look at these people, nobody's rich. Nobody's rich. I mean, they are always hard on the edge of surviving.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it's really interesting, because as close as I've gotten with Pierangelo over the years, he actually one time at a dinner like he actually walked me through, like literally on a napkin, he was showing me what his actual take home pay is on the Eric Steckel signature like that amp, right? Yeah. Which sells for I think 4,200 or something. Yeah. And I think 38 in euros. But he actually showed me on the napkin what
and it's not that much.
My jaw, by the time he showed me what his pay is, I was speechless. I was like, that's it? Because there's so many people in the taking, and
their share. And it is, I know that.
You got the dealers, you got the shipping, you got the insurance, you got, of course, my commission is not very high, so it's not like that's, but there's mostly, the biggest cost would be the dealer cost and the shipping and insurance.
Exactly.
Because, even though they have a FedEx business account, it's still, we're shipping, you're shipping a 412, which weighs 90 pounds. Yeah. The head probably weighs 50 pounds with all the padding and the insurance.
Yeah, and you have to have solid padding, otherwise
otherwise it shows up and it's fucked up.
Yeah, yeah.
So people don't realize to get a $4,000 amp into somebody's living room or onto a stage, the amount of people in the chain that it took to get that amp to you, it's
unbelievable. I know.
And nobody is getting rich off of that, Yeah. But about the Dumble thing, I'm curious your thoughts because Well, I'm curious your thoughts on it because I've in 2023 and 24 I did a bunch of clinic tours and a lot of Mezzabarba dealers are because those Mezzabarbas are expensive, so a lot of the dealers that they work with are high-end dealers. And a couple of the clinics I did, the stores had like in the back room they had like one Dumble for sale or something, and I played. And there's video, people can see what I'm talking about. There's videos of me playing a Dumble last year with a gold top Les Paul. And before everybody comes at me, I understand that all the Dumbles are different. And I understand that they're made for the play and all of that. I get all of that. But
they're not for you.
It's not even my opinion because when I'll give you a really quick story. I don't want to take up too much. Okay. But when I was at there's a store called Guitar Sauce in Lake Como, Italy. Beautiful.
Como, I know.
Lake famous. George Clooney's villa.
North Italy.
Yeah, and the guy that runs the place is it's his passion. I mean, he probably has money from other things, whatever. But he had a Dumble, and he said it just sold for 150,000 euros. It was the combo with the 112 EV and the suede. It wasn't I think it was maybe late 70s because it wasn't by the 80s there a lot were like the black heads with the but it was still an overdrive special, 50 watt. And now keep in mind that this was a place that I had done a clinic in just a few hours earlier with the Mezzabarba.
So you know the place.
And but people had that tone in their head. Right? Because when the public left, he said, "Hey, I got one little thing. I want to hear Eric play my Dumble." You know.
Sure.
So the people that were left were just Pierangelo, me, and the guy. And we plugged in the Dumble, and the look on everybody's face, I'll never forget it. It was like this letdown. Because the hype was so high.
And the amp is just another guitar amp.
And the look on everybody's face, it was just everybody was just like
the expectation is here.
Oh my god,
Okay, sorry guys.
Right.
I had the chance to buy a Dumble for cheap 30 years ago.
Oh right.
And I didn't buy it. I tell you why. Because I didn't like it.
Exactly.
It's that simple. It's not my cup of tea.
Right.
I tell you why. I'm a Marshall guy.
Oh, different mids, totally.
Totally different mids.
Yeah.
Then a Dumble is designed to be solid and sturdy in a way that it doesn't break up in the power amp section.
Super clean power amp and the preamp gain only.
Very controlled. I'm totally the different way. I like Marshalls to be cranked. Everything is
more wild.
Yeah, exactly. Breathing and stuff like it. So emotionally, I don't even connect to a Dumble.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have no problem if somebody pays this amount of money for it because I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Good for them. That's great.
Exactly.
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
And then the thing about the hype, of course, because Dumble built the amps for Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Right, the names.
And these players had their amps tuned to their playing style. It makes sense. We plug in and it's not our cup of tea.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think, I think what people are probably referring to when they talk about the Dumble sound. I'd be willing to bet money on this actually that people are hearing Talk to Your Daughter, Robin Ford, and that's one Dumble. That's that amp. And I think that's what created the problem is that people think like, oh, okay, that's the Dumble sound. No, that's that Dumble sound.
Exactly.
And unless Robin gives you that amp, you're not going to get that exact thing. And here's the thing: is that a great tone? Yeah, of course it is. But it's not. But it's not aggressive. It's refined. It's very California. It's smooth.
Exactly.
It's the West Coast thing. So if I was playing, like with Michael McDonald
that would make sense.
Hall and Oates or something. But for rock, the Dumble is so sweet that I don't think it's for rock. It has enough balls.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I don't get a exciting feel on a Dumble. I mean, I know what they're doing as amp designer too. And it's maybe great for other people, but not for me.
Right. And also, the thing that I did, of course, the store owner had to kind of walk me through, but the whole cascading gain approach versus like separate channels. That was something I learned as well, because when you're doing that cascading gain thing, like
You have to.
You have to have this channel
yeah.
to do that, right? And I'm used to, because I'm a younger guy. I'm used to channel switching amps where they're independent.
This channel does this, and the next channel is doing
exactly.
This.
Yeah, it's like, with a Mesa Barba or any of these kind of Bogner amps, they're completely independent. They have their own EQs. It's not like you're sharing. And I think so that's a little too, in my opinion, that's a little too obsolete now, that cascading thing, because you can't really have any other sound but one thing.
It's a 70s thing, and the technology wasn't at this point.
Exactly.
So this
that's
was
the room,
that's the room inside.
Where was it? It was like off to, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not on the main floor. It was a separate thing.
Right.
So this is Howard Dumble and his creation. This was one overdrive amp only that he was giving to people when they tried to get familiar with the amp, and then he could tune it.
Gotcha.
That's Robin Ford's amp.
Oh, okay.
This is Stevie Ray Vaughan's amp.
Right. Wow, that's the 200 watt one or something, right? The big dog or whatever, 150, whatever it is.
Steel Sting Singer or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And this was the Star Wars amp where Dumble put all his features in one amp.
Oh yeah, that has the reverb and the whole,
and the cascading things.
Right.
And these are some new ones that they are doing. I don't know the prices.
Gotcha.
But I mean, this was the one thing that people talked a lot about.
Yes.
The other thing people talked a lot about was Marshall. And Marshall was not having a booth. Last year and the years before.
Right.
And they came back with a booth.
But it was, I was surprised at how small the booth was.
Yeah.
Not a problem, just surprised.
At least they were there.
Right.
Fender didn't have a booth. They were announced to come, but they had like this
a room or something with the guitars on tables, I saw.
Yeah, for a limited amount of dealers, and
the pictures, like fluorescent lighting, and it looked like a banquet room in a hotel or so. It was very, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's not very inviting.
Yeah. And I mean, the NAMM for me has two sides. It's the business, but for me it's more like the family of the music industry, and
absolutely.
You should show what you've got.
That's what everybody loves about NAMM. That's why NAMM is still a thing.
And that's the spirit.
Yeah.
And we should share that kind of spirit.
Right.
And Fender was playing a different game.
Sure.
There is I have done a little video where I was looking at the Marshall booth, and I think let's watch that for a second.
So, where is the hot stuff? Is this, I can see Silver Jubilees, I can see the studio series with all, stuff that we know. And where's the boutique stuff? They should have So there's quite loud, as Marshall should be. So this seems to be one of the new ones, like a modded Marshall, straight from Marshall, the amp that they should build 20 years ago, and finally they did something. So they take their heritage to the next level, which a lot of modders did in the past, which is why musicians modded Marshalls to be more controlled, have a different spectrum and things like that. And finally, they've done it themselves, which is, I think, a smart move. And here's a picture of the father of Loud, Mr. Jim Marshall, which I still remember and met at the toilet in Frankfurt when we had a pee together. At least that was my Marshall moment with Jim. And of course the classic looks. And they have fantastic fridges. Come on.
And the Rockman is a must-have. Okay, blah blah blah.
I'm probably talking about things, the new products.
Yeah.
Because I saw, the Rockman has a pedal. I saw Oh, and we're back.
Yeah, we are back.
Yeah, no, I saw that Rockman. They did it. They're doing a pedal version of the
Tom
Schultz.
Scholz,
Sound
strip
Yeah,
Rockman, which I had back in the days when it came out.
People loved that thing when it was a big deal, right? When it came out, it was like to get that sound easily, you know.
But it is a device that also makes almost any guitar sound the same.
Oh yeah, it's such a specific sound that it's like it's immediately it's that Def Leppard album that
Exactly.
with that yeah. There's no subtlety there. It does one thing, you know. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So and there's a bunch of Marshall pedals also coming out, and what else?
Are they reissuing like the famous ones like the Governor and the Blues? Like is it those or something new?
I think so. I haven't really looked into all the details. That's something
because Pierangelo in Italy at his shop there where he makes the amps, he's also I'm not a big pedal, but he has a collection of great all the old Chandler tube drivers, whatever, and he has an original Marshall Governor.
Yeah.
Which is the Gary Moore.
I have one of those too.
They're great, man.
And they have, there is something about them. And
they kick ass.
They have a great tone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the sound of overdrive pedals typically, but that thing,
one is good. Yeah.
I mean, if it's good enough for Gary Moore,
it's good enough for us.
Exactly. Yeah. That's he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's like cascading gain because he used the pedal for the drive and the amp driven on top.
Right.
And that's so
how driven? Because I don't know if I've ever heard does anybody know how driven his amp was without the pedal in front? Like I don't know if I ever see. I don't think I've ever heard him
play without the pedal.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was. I think I can guess.
Yeah.
It is AC/DC gain already.
Okay, so it's plenty of chunk already.
It is already getting like everything, and then he pumps the extra thing, and both pedals, the amp and the pedal blend very well together. It's like
it sounds like an amp switched. It doesn't sound like something on top.
Yeah.
It sounds like you switch channels into a third channel.
Yeah,
but it's actually in the line.
Yeah, it's an extra gain stage. But the amp is still doing at least 50% of the load.
Gotcha.
And that's why Gary Moore sounds not like a transistor overdrive.
It's big. It's not thin.
No, it's like
exactly.
And most people don't understand how you have to understand how to handle high gain.
That's a good top. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's probably easy to play legato, but with all the noise and you know what to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a part of that is kind of the accidental reason that I developed the technique that I have.
Yeah.
Is because it's more of you're like playing defense.
Yeah.
You're because I've always loved the way amplifiers sound when they're just all the way up. There's just a bigness there that can't be replicated, right? But I learned early enough that I'm like, well, if you're going to go down that road, you got to be able to work with that. You can't have it both ways. You can't have everything on 10 and then have this super light touch where the thing is just howling and screaming or whatever. So so the extreme muting with the down picking thing, that came out of necessity.
Sure.
That was my refusal to turn down, and saying, well, if this is the sound I want, I gotta work on a way to clean it up and make it sound, so nowadays when people see that technique, they a lot of people think that I sought that out at an early age or something, and no, it was just an accident. It was I wanted that big, just amp, just exploding sound, but I also knew that, well, then I got to make sure people know what notes I'm playing. If it's just a bunch of mess of stuff, nobody's going to dig it. It's going to just go,
muddy.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's you have to train it, you have to learn it, you have to experience it,
and the big one. Oh, sorry, it was scratching because I kept pushing down, but I'll just go a little forward. But also the other thing people forget about playing with high gain is so I have my guitar on 10 less than people think.
Yeah. Same
right?
here.
So if I'm my amp has so much gain.
You can live on 5 or.
Oh man, yeah. And sometimes for rhythm.
Yeah.
So on the album version of when I did "Waiting for the Bus," the ZZ Top cover, those initial chords, my guitar was on 3. That's enough gain for rhythm. Yeah. I don't need to be here because if I'm here, watch what happens. there's all that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what people forget is that the only time I really go to 10 is when I'm doing
solo.
stuff where I'm not muting, right? Where
Yeah.
I'm doing stuff wide open, you know. And then I'm back.
And then
right?
the tone is controlled in
Exactly.
a zone
Exactly.
where you still have the dynamic and,
Right,
and the
right.
mud is not too much.
Yeah.
And that's an art to play high gain.
It is, yeah, it is, and that goes back to the story I was saying earlier in the feed about when that Andy Alador thing happened and I had to play through the PV Bandit with no gain. What I did immediately was go to the neck pickup, right, and play percussively.
Right.
So it's like if you were to blindfold yourself and pull up, 2 videos of me,
Yeah.
you would not even think that the one playing the Bandit was the same guy, because I had to completely change the whole approach because there's no legato, right?
Yeah.
And very little alternate picking too, because when you're alternate picking in an amp that's that clean, you almost don't hear the second stroke.
The upstrokes are
it's like
not,
dead, yeah. So
downstrokes are always strong. But,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So that's why, like, when you look at a player like Stevie Ray Vaughan
Yeah.
or these players that develop this technique, it's because of the gear.
Yeah.
He developed,
Down.
Exactly. Yeah, and also, Stevie would rake into almost every note. There was always, yeah. And that's because he didn't have really any gain. Exactly. Every note had texture.
I mean, it's like
Oh yeah, heavy. I wonder if it's funny. I mean, this is totally not a Strat sound, but even it's like this kind of like, and also something else too, since we're talking about technique, something that is really fun to do when the guitar is on 10 and the amp is on 10 is to find these dissonant things that make the amp do that oscillation. Like that thing. I love, there's, these kind of chords or even, that's even kind of still nice. I like even, I mean, this is a George Lynch thing, totally. But like, you do the root with the flat 5 and it's so like,
okay.
I think it's, is this,
maybe we killed the
or maybe
cable.
it's my,
socket.
maybe I need to spray something in there.
Yeah.
But anyways, but that super dissonant, that like,
I formed a 3-piece band with a 50-watt plexi after I was infected by Hendrix. I had more modern amps before, and then I heard the Hendrix thing and I thought, wow, this is a monster.
Oh yeah,
and I tortured my singer because I was so loud. But it's like the first time you play a non-master, a volume amp like that, you have to learn. With a Marshall, if you don't hit the note, there is no signal and there's no tone.
It's all headroom. It's just.
So, it's like I can play really hard, but this is what I learned from the gear.
Yeah. And also too, people don't realize like, have you ever heard the Hendrix? It's like an studio outtake, but it's him doing "Born Under a Bad Sign," but just instrumental. Okay, so there's a cool album, a compilation album they put out just called Jimi Hendrix Blues, right? And here's what's funny: you hear the way he's using the fuzz face and the amp and the guitar. The fuzz face is on, right? So when he rolls the volume down on the Strat, it gets that clean, glassy thing, right?
Not so nice.
So it's not like he was, and this is what people miss a lot of times with Hendrix. It's not like he was on 10 and then stepping on the fuzz face like as if it was a pedal, like an overdrive. No. The fuzz face is running. And he's working the volume control.
Exactly.
And that's the thing people miss about getting the Hendrix tone is that they step on the fuzz face for so long. Like, no. You got to leave it on.
Exactly.
and use the volume knob.
Yeah.
You know.
And this kind of pedal amp combination was also Richie Blackmore using the Rangemaster treble booster.
Oh man, I love the Dallas Rangemaster.
Yeah, no?
Such a great thing, and that goes back to my mentor, the guy John Mayall, who got me started. The Beano album
Clapton,
was the Rangemaster into the 2x12.
Marshall.
We call it a blues breaker now, but then it was
JTM 45
combo. Yeah, exactly.
Made for Clapton.
Yeah, but people, that's another thing that, and this is I talk about this a lot when I do interviews because people that's the one element people miss when they talk about the Beano album.
Yeah.
And I literally rode around on John's tour bus for weeks, so I know it from the source. And there's not enough gain. Yes, everything was on 10. Yes, that part of the story is true.
Yeah.
But if you just plug a Les Paul into a blues breaker and put it on 10, there's still not enough gain.
I know.
The Rangemaster was what he was doing to push the preamp.
This was the high gain of the 60s.
Totally.
I mean,
totally.
Or Queen. I mean, if you take the Rangemaster out of Brian May's setup, there's no Queen.
Right. It's not rock anymore. It's clean.
It's Vox AC30.
Right. It's glassy and nice, but not rock.
But
exactly. Yeah, and the mids of that thing, like if you listen to the isolated guitar on like We Will Rock You, it's so much mids.
Okay, I can only fake it now. But
well, sure. But no, that's true. And the Rangemaster, that people leave that out sometimes when they tell the John Mayall Clapton story. They leave that part out.
And it's important.
And
it's essential.
Right, because that's as close to an overdrive pedal in the mid '60s as there was. That was and it's funny that it was called a treble booster because, I mean, technically I guess it sort of boosted treble, but
it boosts the treble when you roll down the volume. Technically, it also cuts some of the low end, and then technically it would be a treble booster, but that's not the big point because
it was the push what it was doing to the preamp. Yeah.
And there's one thing that most people don't understand: the treble booster has a super low input impedance. So when you go down with the volume control, the volume potty, what's the English word? Is open and the highs shine through. The moment when you're all the way up, the low impedance, I mean, this is a 250 kilo ohm potty.
Right.
And I think the Rangemaster has only 39 kilo ohms. And that flattens the whole height.
Yeah,
so what happens,
squeezes it.
Yeah, it squeezes.
Which is perfect for blues soloing in that tone.
So
right.
when you have it on 10, you have a mid hump.
Gotcha.
Like Queen start. Right. And all that thing.
It's like a wah pedal in the middle. It's like the nasal thing. Yeah.
And then when you roll it back, it cleans up like
super
crazy.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know that because I never played. I never actually played that rig. The closest I got was just this past year at the Dallas Guitar Festival. They had us fly in. We do a set, and then we stayed. They put us up for the rest of the festival, even though we were done. And we were just walking around, And I remember there was a dealer there that had like
a Rangemaster, a real one,
and the blues breaker. They had the whole rig. But the problem is those shows, the same as NAMM with the volume police. You can't. So I couldn't really do anything, But it was cool to be in the presence of the rig the rig of the guy who kind of gave me a shot in the, you know what I mean? It was kind of a sentimental thing in a way. It was cool,
And I mean, if it wasn't for that album, it wasn't for a lot of tones that inspired other players in us.
Yeah, right. I mean, basically, not that I'm like a major Clapton worshiper or whatever. I mean, but credit where it's due. Basically, without him and that album, our whole line of work. I mean, think like our whole job description of what wouldn't be a thing.
Wouldn't
lead
exist.
Guitar. People don't realize lead guitar. So if you think about when Leo Fender designed like the Telecaster, it was for guys in a bolo tie,
and then
playing in the back by the drummer, and the singer was singing, and exactly. There was no lead guitar. That was unheard of, you know. So our whole business is based
on this kind of
exactly
important.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I have a few other things from the NAMM show. Have you seen any of the digital companies like Neural or Kemper? Not me. And that I found this quite interesting. the only guys that were around were the guys from Tonex.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I have just a small connection to Tonex because we did with my Mesobarba amp. We made 5 profiles and 3 IRs of my amp, and it's compatible with Tonex, Neural, Quad Cortex, Camper. Yeah. It's compatible with everything, Head Rush, all that, everything except Fractal, because Fractal is they make the sounds.
Of course.
Like Fractal Incorporated.
They do modeling, and Camper and Euro, they do capturing or profiling.
Right, so you can put stuff in. Yeah. So Tonex was they were the only ones there that I had any connection to. But I don't know too much else. You know.
I mean, they have done a new cabinet, which is kind of a full range flat response cabinet. And I'm personally still very critical because, old school, sure. I live on guitar speakers.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing, they came up with a kind of nice idea to have a mid control to give
That's good. Yeah.
PA speaker a little more mid focus to cut through.
Right.
So that's their thing.
Because you're right, like a normal PA speaker is not voiced for guitar, it's voiced for just everything. It's
vocals
just,
and drums and whatnot. But,
and I've always wondered that too, like whenever you see people, Friedman made one of those, and it always confused me because I'm thinking, well, the way a guitar speaker sounds is completely different than the way you want to hear a vocal or a kick drum or whatever. It's, guitar speakers on purpose have that, because that's what makes them sweet. I use so what's funny is I got hip to this by accident. So of course everybody knows the classic 25-watt greenback, right?
Sure.
It's right, Sound of Rock and Roll, right? Yeah. And I still love those, great.
Sure.
But then I remember, like during the pandemic, when everybody had time, Pierangelo said to me, he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna ship you something from FedEx, just whatever," and he sends me a cabinet, and it was loaded with the 20s. Which are the Van Halen, the Heritage green,
the older version.
Yes,
with 20-watt handling only, not greenbacks.
Right. So they call them the Heritage greenbacks, and then the 20s. And I'm telling you, man, like when he shipped, even when he told me it's shipping, I was like, you don't need to do that. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your. And he goes, Eric, I feel strongly about this, whatever. And I poo-pooed it for a while, and then.
You discovered it.
Well, then the package arrives, and my friend and I, take it out. I plug in, and within 2 seconds, I went, "Oh my God, he was right."
Yeah.
It was so much more musical.
I know
than
those
the 25. Man.
I know those speakers. I have a speaker collection. When I did clinics in the old days, going to music shops, I always looked for the technicians guys and getting a few tubes.
Sure.
And of course, hot speakers that. It's like, I have this, and I said, okay, now I'm here, cash bomb, and I have a few of those fantastic
They're
speakers.
so good. And what's interesting is, so Pierangelo, who's totally a speaker nerd, way more than me. I mean, I'm more of like whatever. But he did he actually did a comparison on like an EQ, like a graphic,
right?
Where he has a and they're very sentimental to him. He has 4 original, like pre-roll real 25 greenbacks in his own personal Marshall cap, and he compared that to the new 20s, and he said that the new 20s are closer in response to the old 25s. Mm-hmm. So he said if you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, and you don't want to worry about blowing up cones, he said, go buy the new 20s because they're as close as you're going to get to the old 25s. And I learned that on the road because I had 2 cabinets. I had the 25 and the 20. And at the end of the tour, I said to him, man, you were right. The 20s are better. They're better.
Yeah. So what else do we have here? I have a little clip. Just to mention, at the show, we have a bunch of people, and there's a guy from a German shop in Hamburg, Number One. Ever been there?
Heard of it, never been there.
Go there because they are serious, also on vintage guitars. But
cool.
Just drop my name.
Sure.
And blah blah blah. And Niels was there, and this guy is also a phenomenon because he plays so many different styles, and he was playing the metal version. Just for the metal guys, I give you a very short clip of that.
remember when I watched you do the. Oh, we're back. But yeah, that's okay. I can say it anyway. I remember when I watched you when you did the video. It was one of these streams.
Yeah, when people ask me how do we do a Eric Steckel sound.
Yes, I was watching that live. Yeah, it was
so
cool. Yeah. And you did. I think you took a clip from the song that we just came out with called "Hold Your Fire," and you took a clip from that and used that as the reference. And I remember actually, and you showed people how to get the sound on both the normal one and then the Iridium, which is the more metal one.
Yeah, Mercury and Iridium.
Right. And what was funny was, you're right, it was like kind of in the middle because you were able to kind of get it with both, which was cool. I mean, of course, one leaned more the other way. Yeah.
And we just spoke about this. I mean, you kind of live exactly in both worlds in the middle.
Yes, so very much a foot in both because the blues sort of sustain.
Yeah.
And vibrato and stuff, but definitely the metal right hand.
Yeah.
And tonally, you know, a lot of low end and because my amp has a depth and feedback knob on the back.
Very important. Yeah.
And I always tell people, you know, the depth and feedback are the two most important knobs because
this is what I have here on the Amp X. This is the depth control here.
Gotcha.
And then there's the presence.
Right.
Because these knobs take care of the interaction with the speaker.
Totally.
And that makes so much. I mean,
and they affect the EQ.
Yeah, it is. It is EQ, but for me it affects the touch so much.
Oh yeah, you know? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean the feedback. I love the amps. I mean, a lot of the high end builders are doing this now. You know, the feedback knob.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, what is it? And I say it's like, think of it as like okay, you got a sports car, like a modern sports car, and usually there's like a bunch of different exhaust settings.
Yeah.
There's valves closed, valves open,
exactly.
Valves really open, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I see the feedback knob. It's like, so if the feedback knob is like off, the amp is dark and compressed.
Yeah.
And very woolly and sort of right.
Yeah.
And then all the way open, it's like an old plexi barking with no compression at all, which is too much.
Too much.
Right.
You know,
so what's cool is, so that's the reason why I call that the EQ, is because in that from 0 to 10, there's like 40 different sounds in there, you know.
And there's only one spot that is right for you.
Exactly. For the player.
For the player. And sometimes even at the moment, if you're in a room that is too harsh, sometimes you have to tame the amp a little bit.
Or even the song.
Yeah.
When I'm in the studio, usually I don't touch the actual front panel of the amp, but I'll change the feedback depending on if I want it to be like more headroom and chunky or more dark and sweet, you know. So that's feedback knob is great.
Yeah. Okay, I do have two more little videos from the trade show. One is Phil X. Have you met him?
Oh, Phil X. Oh, yeah, man. Every time at the Dallas show, I always hang with him, and we've talked online a few times, and he's a suit. Actually, there was you remember when they used to do the Van Nuys amp show?
Wow, I have never been there. I heard about it.
Yeah, it was and he was like 2019. He was walking around, and I saw him there, and he's a really humble and nice
guy. Very nice guy.
No ego or attitude or anything.
Yeah, no. So sweet.
Yeah.
I played with him too, and I mean, in Germany at this event, I was playing with Uli John Roth, and then he was stepping out filming us. You know?
Yeah, he's like a regular guy. Like he's not. Yeah, I know.
And then we played a song, and the singer had didn't. So he came up with his mobile phone, go to the internet, find the lyrics, and was simply singing some songs.
Right.
You know.
He's a great performer. He's a natural performer. It's he's great. He's great.
So let's watch the little greeting thing and him on stage.
The one and only!
You are on stage now. Supposed to be. It's gonna happen now. Yeah. Drums. Okay. He didn't even have anything done yet, so I gotta go.
Really? You gotta stand there?
Cool.
So, and then I caught a little bit of his performance.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, let's see.
You have to see Phil because he's on fire. He's great. So watch Phil on stage.
because I think I was.
Hey,
This thing was cool.
we are back.
Oh yeah.
And we have another guy coming in, which is Gunnar Larsen.
Hello.
And we are actually his guests because Gunnar is a German friend of mine that I met in 2000,
Many years ago.
many moons ago.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was living in Hamburg for 2 or 3 years and was traveling back and forth and things, and yeah, there's a tradition of me staying at Gunnar's place after NAMM.
Oh right, which we're doing right now.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
so this is the best time, you know, because at NAMM everybody's busy, and
Right.
and now we can catch up on things, and you know,
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Shoot the shit a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And after we were talking like after NAMM is the better than going before.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
now it's like okay, everybody can kind of unwind and
Yeah,
you don't have to worry
relax.
about preparations
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
great hang, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And right down the street from me, this was easy to get to. Yeah.
Oh, you're close by?
Well, Santa Clarita, which
okay.
which is with no traffic, it would be like 30 minutes. But of course, I was coming down at like 9 a.m., so it was it was traffic. But yeah, UCLA, Westwood areas,
Yeah.
it's close. Yeah.
And Gunnar has his own studio here. He has a huge amp collection. He's
Looking at something
too many amps, too many guitars, too many pedals, too many everything.
Too many everything. I can't wait to get
He
this
was
in my
Get it
hand.
all in there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I want to see some of the stuff move out, so I have more room when I come and visit him.
That's true. That's true.
That's right.
Very selfish. There's the deal. Yeah, but Gunnar also is giving lessons, and his is it LA guitar teacher?
LAguitarteacher.com. I
Yeah.
do online lessons at a special price, so you can always send me requests. I'm more than happy
Yeah.
to take everybody on. I'm doing this for a long time. My story is this. I wanted to become just like Thomas. Unfortunately, when I was 21,
Yeah,
I
had
had
injury.
an accident
Yeah.
and my right hand is partially paralyzed. So that's why that didn't work out. But
You can't do his thing.
I cannot.
Oh,
do this.
The right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still, Gunnar is still, you know, he's got the taste, he's got, I mean, not a high speed, and he understands music well. He has
Right.
a great sense for melody and stuff like that.
Right. The
So-
phrasing is the most important, really.
Absolutely.
Everything else
Yeah.
is more like sport, which is fun, you know, entertaining.
But
All of us guitar players
it's
like
not a
that.
must. It's
but
not a
it's
must.
not the most important.
Exactly.
It's the note choice. I think is the most important.
That's why I'm still in the game.
Exactly. You're exhibit A, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one more thing is that when I started my professional career in Germany, I kind of got into a band of old brothers. You know, I was the
Okay.
only white bread in that band.
Gotcha.
We played
Yeah.
reggae, funk, and soul.
Cool.
And they kind of grooved me into that backbeat, into
Gotcha.
that being in the pocket and really
Right.
feeling it, playing very sparse and just
Sure.
adding to the music where it's necessary.
Right.
And that was what finally, well, I had my heroes before the accident.
Mm-hmm.
That was Steve Lukather and Larry Carlton.
Okay.
Which you can see back in the corner.
I know. I was checking out. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but then it was this kind of connection to the groove, to the backbeat, to
Yeah.
the pocket,
Yeah.
that drove me here because the percentage of people that play like that
Yeah.
is exponential higher here
Here
than
in the US.
Germany. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Right.
find
I think
people.
culturally, I guess.
Yes, it
it's,
is. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
There, my premises is I love the best of both worlds. Like
Right.
my thing is, I once had a chance to talk to one of the biggest German artists for 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
said, I like to combine German and American spirits in
Okay.
music
Yeah.
and culture. And
Sure.
That's what I'm all about.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha.
And I'm super excited to have you guys
Oh,
here.
well, thanks for the invite. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
A couple of years ago, we had Jude Gold, the guitar player,
yes.
in the same room.
Yes, good
and-
friend of mine as well. Yes, great
and
guy.
he was interviewing me. You know?
Oh,
And-
right, because he does the pod. You did his podcast.
No guitar is safe.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been on that?
Yep. During the pandemic, I think it was like 2021 or 2 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And I hadn't talked to him before that, so it was a cool. And now we keep in touch. But it
super
was
sweet guy.
amazing.
And they're playing with he's playing with Stefan Starship.
Yeah. They're doing a great business. They're always working.
Yeah, in Europe they have played the whole tour with Deep Purple as opener.
That's right. That just happened, right?
Yeah. And so I was there, and you know it's always nice to be backstage with them and the Deep Purple guys.
Right.
There's
Simon from the guy
McBride.
Simon McBride, and he actually he owns him as a barber, and he is on the list of guys.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I remember like he did the first run with Deep Purple. He was allowed to have his rig.
Yeah.
And then what I remember happening was all of a sudden he has the Ingle back line, and I remember asking some people, and they said, no, Deep Purple has an endorsement. The band has an endorsement contract.
Ingle.
Right. So it was the fact that they even let him go that first run without it was shocking. You know.
Yeah.
But that's why he. But when you see videos of him just at home in the studio, whatever he can play whatever he wants. You know. But he's great. He's great as well. He's really great.
And I think he makes a fantastic job in the band. So
right, and it's it's big shoes to fill. It's
absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of expectation
right.
when you have your 5,000 people in the hall looking for Richie Blackmore, who's not there anymore.
Right.
I mean he is there, but in Rainbow.
Oh yeah, but he has no interest. Yeah, Blackmore has no interest in doing the stuff that
Ian Gillan. The old friendship is not there anymore.
It's severed. Yeah. It's because Blackmore is really awesome at what he did, and it's a shame. I wish I heard nicer things. Like I wish, because he's so great that I wish the stories I heard were not true.
Yeah, some of the stuff. On the other hand, I understand a few things from the backgrounds. There was this California Jam in 1974 here.
Yeah.
And Blackmore kind of smashed a cameraman with his guitar. Because in the contract it said we are not going on stage before it's dark. And then they screwed them, and he was kind of locking him up, like, I wait for the contract when it's dark, then we start to play. And they forced him to go on stage.
Wow.
And so there's always two sides to the story.
Sure.
I heard I don't know what's true.
Yeah.
I know Ian Pace, the drummer in Deep Purple, and Don Airey, and they both talk about Richie not being. Once you understand his way of thinking, it makes sense. Because I heard the same thing, and it's like, I was curious. It's like, hey, how is it to work with Richie? And then they both go, hey, Richie is Richie. If you know what the thing is, you understand. He used to be very difficult in the Rainbow times when he was on a trip for perfection.
Right.
And this is where he hired and fired so many singers and band members. But this was after Deep Purple.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. But
no. I mean, it's true. I think probably most sort of iconic, stories you hear that get passed down and things. You always have to put a little bit of a grain of salt with that, because you don't know
exactly
who started it, who said what, and who changed this or that. And I also think that, like you said, I mean, everybody has a different sort of way of working.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always gel with everybody. I've been on the road with guys that it's just not there. It's just it's. But then then you get on the road with guys that they're exactly what it needs to be. It's
sure.
and it's kind of undefined. I don't think you can you can't write it down. Like, it's just this thing between human beings.
Yeah.
If it's there and it works, it's great. If it doesn't, don't waste your time trying to force it. It's not gonna work.
Exactly. Stay cool about it and try to make the best out of it. Don't push things. Don't go angry.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, this is one of the most professional people in this aspect is Jennifer Batten. She's always relaxed no matter what.
That's great.
And
that's really good.
Probably she has seen everything.
Right.
From the biggest to the smallest.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well. Yeah. I love this kind of attitude.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that as a young kid, I got to see, with John, I got to see sort of how he handled situations that weren't perfect, right? You know,
Right.
John being, so he was already in his 70s then,
Yeah.
you know, when I was with him, and he gave me a really cool thing. He allowed me to every night to come out to the merch table with him, which is not something that, I mean, think about it. I was just a guest. I mean, that's not, it's John's gig, man. There's no need to bring me.
No.
And he did that. And it was so amazing to watch how he interacted with, it wasn't watching him interact with the normal situations, because that's, thank you, oh, you're wonderful, John, thank you.
yeah.
It was seeing how he handled the problems.
Yeah.
And I'm still, to this day,
Yeah.
trying to, I'm not there yet, but I want to get to the John level of Zen.
Zen.
Because
Exactly.
because here's the
Yeah.
thing, because it was interesting. It's not that John was like easygoing, like, oh, anybody can do whatever. No.
He knows what he wants.
Yes.
But
He never raised his voice.
Exactly.
Ever.
Don't get
Ever.
angry, but be precise.
Firm.
Firm. A firm is the
Right,
word.
and people respected it, because I remember, you know, my family and I, we sometimes we use these quotes in our own lives, you know, and there's two great John Mayall quotes that I love. We were in Stockholm, and it was a big gig. We played the Burns Hotel, which is like in their main hall. I mean, it was insane. You could fit like 5,000 people inside this thing. It was big, but John's a big name, you know, and but people were drinking heavy, right? So by the end of the gig at the merch table, these drunks are like leaning in to talk to him, and they're kind of spitting, you know, because they're just drunk. And one guy kind of fell on the table, right? And most guys would get a little pissed off, right? And John so quietly just said, "Off you go now," with a British accent.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, oh, you know, it was so effective.
Yeah.
Right? It was like,
Yeah.
and then my other favorite one was, we're in Norway, and we're in the backstage, and John is going to be interviewed by a local press. So like a 17-year-old kid, Norwegian kid, comes back, you know, and you could tell he's like, you know, it's probably his first big writing assignment or something, you know, he's a little nervous, you know. And I just happened to be there, and John didn't kick me out. He let me stay while the interview. And the kid had all the dates wrong, all the facts wrong, and the
fuck.
kid just, you know, and he's got this notepad with a bunch of scribble stuff.
Oh.
And John very calmly said,
British.
"Have you done any research at all?"
Yeah.
Right? And the kid was like, humana, you know, and John just said, "Relax.
Yeah.
Why don't you go home, do a little research?
Come
The show will be over in 2 hours. Come back,
and
and
we'll
we'll
fix
do
it."
it, right?"
Yeah,
And the
super.
kid was like, yeah, okay, you know. So being able to see that as a young kid, see the way a pro,
Super.
and I was
And-
like, wow, man,
and he,
incredible.
I mean, it's not like he gets angry and shuts the door.
No.
He is opening a door.
Yep, exactly.
And guiding people this
Right,
way
right.
is like, hey, this is the
Right.
way out. You are my friend, but,
Yeah,
but now it's
yeah,
time
yeah.
to leave.
It was
But-
great, because
but-
he still doesn't take any shit, though.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
doesn't do it in a yelling and screaming way that
Yeah.
makes him look weak or like he's,
No.
you know, overly emotional. You know, it was so. I mean, I'm not saying I'm there yet. I still want to get. I'm practicing to get to his level of Zen. I'm not there yet.
But
I'm working on it. I want to
And-
get to that level of calm someday. You know.
very nice. I mean, this is what you can really learn from people that have been there, done
Yeah.
it, and
All,
have
seen it all.
They have
Yeah.
seen it all.
Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't seen everything. We have
No,
seen
no.
a bit, and we can mature in this
Yeah.
aspect.
Oh yeah.
I just recently adapted that kind of mentality in LA traffic, you know?
Oh, good for you! I'm
Yes.
jealous. I can't.
Like a year ago, I also work as a recording engineer. I had
Okay.
a recording gig. I had to be 7 a.m. somewhere in East LA. And I was on the freeway and my car broke down right downtown.
Oh my God.
And all my equipment in the trunk and everything. And,
That's a nightmare.
So I barely made it there with an Uber and had my
Right.
car towed and whatnot. It was a huge disaster. But ever since then, when I'm in LA traffic and there's some idiots like changing lanes like crazy and
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
is
yeah, well.
happening, you know, I go like,
You have to just breathe.
you know what? I'm moving. I will eventually get
Make
to
it.
where I
Yeah,
want
you
to
make it.
get
And-
to. So let
Because you've
them
had it
do
worse. You've been on the side
I
of the
had it
road.
worse.
So if you're
Yes.
not on the side of the road, that's an improvement over what it could be, right? Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Exactly.
You're right. Yeah, find the positive. Find the
and,
positive.
Yeah.
I always leave like 20 minutes early, and
True.
if I show up
True.
15 minutes early, I just hang in my car
Yeah.
and check the internet a
Yeah.
little bit.
No, you're
But,
right. It's unbelievable. Some of the moves you see the drivers do out here. Because I'm not from here. I'm from the East Coast originally.
Yeah.
I've been here like 12 years.
Right.
But some of the moves you see on the freeway, these guys that like
crazy.
They'll merge on and they'll just zoom across 5 lanes.
Oh yeah.
And it's like one pebble or one thing out of place, and everybody goes flying.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. And I just think to myself, do these people want to die? What's going on here? Or are they just that? They just think that they're so in what's the word, like
They're invincible.
invincible that they,
They have eternal life. Nothing happens
unbelievable.
ever to them. you know?
yeah, it's wild, the things I see out here. I mean, because the East Coast is different. The people on the East Coast, are more, when you're hanging with people, they're more direct and a little more gruff and less emotional, whatever. But here, it's the driving. It's the road thing. It's just...
Yeah, it's absolutely
Very
insane.
stressful,
I was
yeah.
a little bit like that before the accident. That's when I learned, like,
Gotcha.
things can happen. You know, like,
You're right.
all of a sudden you can't be the person you want to be anymore, and who knows what happens, you know.
Right.
So you got to pay respect to your environment, to your surroundings. You got to be humble,
Oh, yeah.
and rather, take it easy.
Exactly. And I think, the being thankful for what you have thing is something, just recently, it kind of hit me. Like, I was doing a gig in Poland a couple years ago, and it was, like, really far east in Poland, and we didn't know this till after the gig, but one freeway exit further would have been in Belarus. Or Belarus, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that country, right, which is basically Russia, right?
I know. Yeah.
So we did this festival, and it was in the summertime, and it was wonderful, wonderful day, whatever, and we go to the merch booth after the gig, and there's all the people lined up, but then the promoter has some guy. The promoter he brings a guy and purposely brings him kind of in front of the line, and said, Eric, I want you to meet this guy because he's from Russia, and he had to wait 10 hours in his car at the border check to come see you tonight at this gig. And when I said that, it just hit me. I'm like. I have no right to bitch about anything ever again. Like that
10 hours,
was like, but not only that part of it, but just the fact that this guy to come see my set, like that, it was that important to him. I'm like, so that really, that changed me in a lot of ways. That was like, whoa, this is time to kind of be more thankful and like.
You live a very privileged life. As
Oh
we
man,
do
yeah.
Here right now.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There are people in this world don't even want to start thinking about their situation.
Absolutely.
Because it will freeze you up.
Yeah, to do something that you enjoy and to be able to put food on the table doing that is really
the best you can have.
And in this economy, that's like probably 1 in a billion at this point. I mean, it's like really difficult for young artists, and so it's anybody, and that's at NAMM, I really enjoyed seeing people doing well.
Yeah, and it's so important that our industry or what we are doing is still alive and keeps being alive, because there's many things that will disappear, and for some reason NAMM was vibrant this year. And
thank God, man.
It's
I was worried, man, because during the pandemic, I was thinking like, man, things are. I enjoyed the fact that when I was walking around, I'm like, people are working, people are playing, people are making records, making gear, touring. I'm like, all right, it's back, you know. Because it was bleak, man. Like I know in 2021. That's got to be one of the worst years I think of it. I mean, agents were telling me, I don't know
what's the future.
Yeah,
it could have been the end of the whole thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I literally had
the collapse.
Yeah, I had agents that from like big so one of the agents we work with in the Netherlands, which is like tied into Live Nation, Greenhouse Town. This is a big. I'm probably the smallest artist they have. This is, and I remember asking them, and they're like, oh, we don't know. So like, you people don't know, then that's not good. If these people at this level are saying we don't know, so I was I loved walking around at NAMM and seeing how people are back.
There was only one disappointment for me. There was this announcement: Fender's back at NAMM show, and I was like,
it was some room with a bunch of guitars on tablecloths and stuff, right? It was like a
no. I went up there, the escalator, and I was expecting the showrooms with the guitars and everything, and Greg Koch playing, and
right.
And then I go up there, and there's these few tables with assistants sitting there. It's private event, Fender, blah blah blah.
Oh, so
I
it wasn't even it was private.
I walked by
I
because
see.
I walked by because I'm looking for the showrooms, and
There is no
there
showroom.
is no showrooms. It was just like
Gotcha.
signing contract suites
Okay.
Yeah.
on private invitation.
Because I only saw videos after NAMM
Yeah.
of the Fender room. Of course, I wasn't in there, but and it looked, even the people that got in, like dealers and stuff, it was literally, from what I saw, it was like folding tables with white tablecloths and guitars on little A-frame stands.
Mhm.
And then if you wanted to pick one up, somebody would allow you, and that was
Yeah.
And that was the footage I saw. So I don't know.
Yeah, nope. We didn't get.
Yeah.
We ordinary folks didn't
No,
get to
no.
see
Now,
anything.
was Gibson present? I don't.
No.
And the recording engineering side, Universal Audio, isn't there.
Really?
Yeah,
they're
that's-
not there anymore.
Interesting.
So Avid had this huge
Booth.
booth,
Right.
like all those years. It's now the size of my room, literally.
Yeah.
Like you just have like.
Yeah, but the
laptops.
price, man. I mean.
That's the problem. You know, you have as an exhibitor, you have to finance the whole trip, and it's like
Insanity.
I share my booth with the vintage guys from the UK.
Right.
I have 1/3, they have 2/3, and
That's smart, yeah.
let's the whole trip is 10K
Oh yeah,
easily.
yeah.
And
Hotels, meals, the flights.
and we do it guerrilla style, low budget.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. When I learned, because I didn't know, I was always on the performer end of them. I didn't
Yeah.
know until I started hanging with Perangelo.
Yeah.
And he told me, he says, man, they bill you for the electricity, they bill you for the carpet.
carpet.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I actually asked him when I was over there in
They
the
bill you
spring.
to bring the stuff in because
Oh yeah, the pallets and all the stuff.
you are not allowed to do it yourself.
Because it's like a forklift thing. You have to
Yeah.
have a certain license, right?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's
so-
union.
Union.
Oh yeah, you have to have
right.
union workers doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So when I asked him, and of course, yeah, we're talking Mezzabar, but they were next to you. These are the small size booths, right?
Right.
I asked him a couple months ago when I was over in Italy. We were just driving around, making small talk, and I just said, hey, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to tell me. I said, I'm just curious. What is like a normal NAMM trip for you? All in, like at the final price. And he kind of chuckled while he's driving,
Yeah.
and he says, "You really want to know?" I said, "Yeah, I want to know." He goes, "25K."
Yeah.
And I was like,
easily
what?
spent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for
not
these smaller
surprised.
companies, that's so ridiculous.
Of course.
Mhm.
How many amps do you have to sell with the margin that you make
Right.
to pay that kind of
It's
membership?
it's not, you can't justify it, So I'm like, yeah, NAMM needs to bring the prices down for the to get more of the smaller companies in there.
Right. Hey, let's play.
Yeah,
one more.
let's play, man.
So
I'm kind of let's do it like this because when I was leaning on this thing, it was scratching on the.
Yeah,
Let's see if
sofa.
I'm now. Yeah, now it's
Get out of
good.
your way a little bit.
Oh no!
Feel free.
Well, let's see. Do you want me to come out further? Then that way this doesn't. Yeah, that's good like that. Yeah. I forgot your standard. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
No, that's
stuck.
okay. Got lucky in that one. That was good.
Yeah, ladies and
That was
gentlemen,
great.
Mr. Eric Steckel.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Right
This was
on,
fun.
man.
Yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
guys.
It's my pleasure
Appreciate
to
you,
have
man.
you here in my humble
Yes, sir.
abode.
I just realized I never do the swell with the neck pickup, right?
Yeah.
And I realized I gotta spray some These things are all crusty, man. My sweat is so like.
Acid.
Yeah. And it's funny because I always make sure I get this. This is my main one. I'm always,
Yeah.
But I forgot, I never do swells with this until now, and it was like, just got to spray some stuff in there. But yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
before we split, I
Yes.
will show your tour
Oh,
again.
thank
For
you.
all the guys, check out when he's coming to Europe.
Yep. And we'll do more as well. Like this is just the first round. I'll probably come back in the summer and do
Sure.
festivals and things
Yeah.
and whatever. So if you can't catch me here, we'll probably do another run. At
Of
some
course,
Point. But
yeah. So, hey, very, very big pleasure to have you as a guest here.
Thank you.
And finally
Thank you, man.
it worked out. I mean, it was coincidence. I mean, you just came to the booth.
Yeah, and I
we
actually didn't really stop, and I mean this sincerely, I didn't really stop in many booths because I wasn't really, it was a social thing, right?
Yeah.
It just happened to be that I walked right by your booth, and
Hi, what are you doing? Yeah.
and I remember like the tone, I think you were playing, and I was like, fuck, that sounds good. And I know we've talked before and we met, but I really don't like, and think about this, it's actually a compliment because the whole point of the booth is to grab people in.
Yeah.
And yours did that literally because I'm walking by, I'm going, fuck,
Yeah.
it sounds good. And then I realized who it was, and I said, okay, well, there you go. So,
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
how we can end this episode because
Perfect.
I catched when you started to play, I thought I'd take my phone and I simply film you because
Oh, right.
you were drawing in the next crowd after me.
And I wasn't aware. If you watch I was so in the zone on that. I didn't even. And then I looked up and I'm like, oh, there was people there, But it was fun, really fun.
Okay, I'm just thinking about where the rest. Where's the clip? Eric 605. I think it's not outro. Here. So this is my official ending. Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for
Thanks for
watching.
being guests. And I think we all had a wonderful time talking
Absolutely.
about many things.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm very happy that we have this kind of chance and that we
Me too.
NAMM is a good thing to meet. So
Yes.
now let's check out what I filmed with my bloody little phone.
Playing your guitar.
My guitar,
Playing your guitar.
nothing. It's
And,
you.
and a fun fact is, I mean, truly, I don't own any Strats anymore.
Yeah.
I only own my Nags, which are all single cut, 24 3/4, no whammy bar.
Yeah.
So, your Strat, me playing your Strat was probably the first time in
Yes.
at least 5 years, if not more, playing that kind of guitar.
Yeah.
So it was fun to just kind of come back to that for a second and
Yeah.
think like that for a second. It was cool.
Yeah, and I can tell you had fun. It was a setting with my kind of hot-rodded plexi, which is a different sound that you just had here. But anyway, check it
was cool. It was
out.
great.
Eric, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Come and see him on tour.
Absolutely.
See you. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Yeah, this is like, it's like addictive to play, man. It's crazy. Can I hear some of the other like high gain sounds?
I have a few, but do you like shreds now?
I like this strat. I like this one. I mean, yeah. If this had like a stacked hum marker, I'd be like, you know.
Yeah.
Like okay, yeah, JMP.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it has like the Marshall mids,
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
like low, yeah.
It cleans up. Try this, like.
That's the thing that the Marshall, right?
Yeah.
You know, I keep. I don't usually wear stuff like this, but yeah, okay. Yeah. Beautiful, yeah. Great, yeah, great.
Yeah,
Just the right
snappy.
compression,
Yeah.
Killer, man, yeah.
Eric Steckel.
Thank you. Wow. This is badass, man. It's great.
There is a Fender Tweed Deluxe 57.
Okay.
If you want to try that.
Yeah, let me hear some
So
different
this
stuff.
is it's a bit low gainy.
Right. Yeah, but it's still thick. Yeah,
It's thick.
Let's see. So. Oh yeah, middle pickup's great with